destroyed its U effects with the UAIM. He gets the finishing blow. Epicenter!
Nice shot.
Oh my god!
Holy.
Just like it ended, on fire. If you didn't catch us in Sapporo, one of the greatest esports events in all of Japan had just occurred a few months ago. We've had a break. We've had now time to reset, teams to swap, and characters and storylines to build. And now the beginning of year 5 takes hold as we get to kick this off ceremoniously online as we usually do and start a whole new year of Apex glory. My name is Rainday. I'm your host, but I'm not alone today. I have two of my good friends, my compadres, my buddies ready to go and call the action today. Of course, I'm talking about Onset and Gaskin. Mark, we have so much to look forward to. Year 5 certainly starting off with a bang.
It feels like a new era. I don't know what it is. We've got new teams, new rosters, new legend bands, POI draft. We've got new maps. There's so much to talk about. And the fact that we start here in EMEA and we get to see the ALGS Championship champions, it just feels good, man. It feels right. I'm excited to get into the action. I'm super excited for year 5.
Yeah, more rules. I like rules. More rules being added means more numbers, more stats. I like stats. The Legend Bans has been one of the most fun things to watch in scrims leading up to today, and I can't wait to see whether actually the bans that have been happening in scrims will happen the same today in competitive environment. But we'll see what happens.
It's interesting. That's life. You know, everyone's talking about how, you know, things evolve and adapt. And that's the same conversation we had with our commissioner, John Nelson. We got to adapt. We have to keep, you know, adjusting this esport, this competitive pace of the game. And legend bans, like many things, are going to now force these players to do things that they've never done before. Let's take a look at actually who is playing, as well as we have our participants coming up on your screen for our Pro League in EMEA. We'll see A versus B today. C will take a break. Obviously, and we'll have North America later on this afternoon. But Mark, you mentioned GoNext Esports now under a new banner of Natus Vincere, the team that just won in Japan a few months ago.
Yeah, welcome back, Navi. What a pickup, right? You just pick up the world champs. Why not? Just move in, make that move. Seems like a smart thing to do. But there's so many new rosters that have come together. Some players who are returning to the region as well. And then we have some teams, of course, who are staying the same. All of your favorite names are all there still, but it's kind of a little bit of a mix-up. And I think EMEA has deserved and it's earned its respect back over the last year or so. So I'm really excited to watch these teams go at it this year.
Dan, you know, we've had this kind of back and forth of these regions, right? We've seen, you know, Korea take a win. We obviously saw early in the year 4. Now we have EMEA winning, not with Alliance, but now with GoNext. I mean, is this really EMEA's time in Apex in your eyes?
Unless Na'Vi are a curse, and that's all I'm saying. It could happen. I don't want to put them on blast, but, you know, if suddenly they dip down, you know, I'm just going to put it out there.
3 minutes into the first show, Dan is throwing curses. This is crazy from you.
There's a lot of curses in Apex, we know that for sure. But yes, maybe this could be the EMEA era. I mean, not just, of course, the reigning champions Na'Vi, but you've also got the likes of Alliance, which arguably one of the strongest teams still coming into this season. So yeah. I think this is going to be a very exciting time for us.
Well, let's talk storylines, guys, because obviously coming in, you might be watching Apex and saying, oh, wow, Pro League's back on. What have I missed? What's going on? Mark, let's walk through some of the teams that maybe you might be familiar with. Had you have watched Apex for the last few years and want to see some familiar faces go at it today?
Amongst the roster main, there's always a few rosters that stick together, and it's usually the ones who've had the most success. And we mentioned Na'Vi, Natus, Vincere, obviously picking up the roster, the GoNext roster, who won in Sapporo, Japan, who are your current reigning defending champions of the ALGS. It was a magical moment. It was the ultimate underdog story. I think if you asked anyone going into that tournament who was going to win, there was only 3 or 4 people who would have told you GoNext would have been that name, Na'Vi as they're now known. And that would have been the players and maybe the coach themselves. So a lot of expectation now. It's a different look for them. But moving ahead, one team who hasn't changed as well is, of course, Alliance, another EMEA team who won a trophy last year. It was a magical moment for them. It was a little bit of a different feel. It wasn't so much the underdog story for them. It was more like they were fulfilling their potential as a roster. The EWC win for them was a massive moment for EMEA, a massive moment for them, and proved that this roster is one of the best in the world. And also, we know with legend bands coming in, they're one of the most flexible as well. So I think they're a team who are going to really thrive this season as well. Next up, we have a team who almost picked up a trophy as well, but didn't quite manage to get there. That's going to be GG. Of course, Mannheim, Germany was the stage where they were so close to becoming champions. They were on match point first. They got out of the gates extremely quickly, but then just weren't able to close out in a series that just kept feeling like it was going to be theirs and then got away from them. The lineup stays the same, understandably so. They've had some good results in the last year or so. And the final team is a team that I love these boys. These are my boys. I want to see them do well, and that's going to be UAIM. You've got Max Trophy, you have Artico, you have Sanya. Everybody wants to see these gentlemen do well, back on land, competing and showing that they are one of the best teams in the world. So a lot of trios staying the same. You can understand why a lot of success there in those 4 teams.
Well, teams staying the same, but of course that means other teams will be changing things up. First up, the Cybercats, a team who became very popular amongst fans and us as commentators alike because they were so good at changing their composition. They threw all sorts of legends into the fray, and maybe that's going to help a lot when it does come to these legend bans because they seem to have a very diverse pool. Up next, FaZe Clan. Now, I'm excited for this because FaZe Clan have been a team that maybe we have expected to be at the tippy top of Apex Legends, but maybe haven't necessarily got there from time to time, and they are building their squad around Synetic, and for good reason. Over 50,000 worth of earnings. The IGL is now looking to try and find something along 2 very impressive controller fraggers. You've got Tyler, who has joined Alliance for the meantime. He's shown he's good enough, for example, but can he do it here for FaZe alongside Zane? Excited to see what they can do. And then finally, we have EXO Clan. It would not be a pro league without K Swinney, now would it? And I'm sure the EXO Ultras are raring to get into the stands to cheer this new EXO lineup. And I think, you know, Arctic Chaotic, K Swinney, that has all the pieces for me that could be a successful team. And again, I think they have a lot of diverse legends to be able to play here. So keep an eye on EXO Clan coming into this one, Brain Day.
Totally true, Dan. In this, capacity, we've got so many familiar names, a lot of looks that are different, and that's the beauty of Apex Legends. These teams and these players now having a little bit of history. Can they do it? Can they find the right thing to push them ahead? Cat, they're trying to do it as well. We have some teams from the PSQ, the preseason qualifier, that have made their way into it. Taxington, maybe a name that you have seen already as well, but it's not just Cat, it's Ronin that have come up and been a part of this. Jay Hanzo, somebody been playing since 2023. Now, with that pro season qualifier, sticking with it. Somebody said the other day, stick-to-itiveness is what my father taught me, which is hilarious. But it's like, we have these pros coming to it where it's like they've been here this entire time. Is this the moment that they get over the hump and they find it? Infinite as well, coming from our PSQ. These are those Cinderella stories we always try to highlight. So hopefully, as you take a look at Cat, Ronin, Infinite, and WEH over the course of this season, maybe there's something that you can root for in terms of the fact that they have now found their way into the big leagues. Can they push in and be the next GoNext? We'll find out in just a few moments. Obviously, as we take a look at it too, there's so many things coming through from a character development here and story for players, guys. But in terms of the league, I mentioned, we've had some big changes. One of the biggest changes for sure that I want to dive into are legend bans. Year 5 has added this huge depth possibility for these players. Somebody who has obviously come in and looked at Apex before, has seen a lot of different variety, but usually it's the same 3 legends played at either event that they're watching. Now that will not be the case. We will obviously be introducing bans to legends after maps are also banned as well. World's Edge removed, Broken Moon added. Things like this, as you can see, have changed the game, but I kind of want to dive into more of the legend aspect with you, Mark, and talk about how that might have an impact on these players. The way it works is you can play a legend. The most played legend in that lobby of 20 teams is now going to be banned. You cannot play that legend until you come back around and all of the legends in that category, whether it's support, skirmisher, etc., are banned so that it would be unlocked. This is going to mean you've got to have depth, you've got to have backups, Mark, and that is only going to make our game better.
It means game by game, we're going to see a meta shift as well. No 2 games are going to be the same. It's going to be a real test for teams. You're going to have to go deep into the well. I'm sure a lot of players would have been playing a lot more ranked games than maybe they previously were to make sure that they were comfortable on certain legends. Because the biggest challenge for me as well is going from being on one legend and then the next game being on a legend that plays very, very differently in a different role. And you have to be able to adapt to the situations and the abilities that you have to interact with your teammates. It really is like the ultimate skill test, I think, for a lot of these players who maybe spend a season or so, perfecting their craft on one legend previously. And now they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to change. And that's where we're going to see a prevalence of more mistakes, because when you're changing things up, those mistakes can be punished. And if you're the one making it, then you're kind of like, it's a difficult one. So yeah, I'm excited. Legend bans is going to be great.
Dan, I feel like we've seen different metas really thrive for different players. You look at Hal, one of the most historied players in all of Apex Legends, winning on Horizon, more of an aggressive style meta, but kind of falling in terms of third place, nothing to shake at, but having some issues when it became, part of the conversation of Gibraltar's, Newcastle's, things that are a little slower. Does this mean now players are excited about this, or you think there's going to be some trepidation that, this isn't up my wheelhouse in terms of these bans? How do you feel players are heading into this looking as year 5 begins with legend bans?
I think there will be a split. I think there are going to be players that are very excited to show their depth in how they can play these legends. And we will get games where, Wraith is a 90% pick rate for that game. And you'll start to look at the Imperial Howls of the world and people who have succeeded with Wraith in the past. There are also going to be teams that play a composition that isn't necessarily better for that lobby so that they can continue playing it through games 1, 2, 3, 4. We've seen it in scrims, people playing Watson, for example, instead of Catalyst, that often gets banned early, and that allows them to stay with something that's more comfortable. And there are going to be players that do struggle to hop from legend to legend, so it's about finding those compositions that can avoid those bans as best you can, and that just adds to it for me, because then because of that, you might get numbers that are a little bit skewed, and we might see a legend ban that wouldn't be normally banned, so it's going to be exciting for sure.
Yeah, to me, I love the idea that you're looking at the way, this game is being played, and now it's got to change every single match, every single map you're looking at now. Okay, well, we were successful with Gibraltar, with Newcastle, with Catalyst, but now we got to play Ash. Now we got to play Fuse. Now we got to play Ballistic. Can we still be successful? It's really going to open up the idea of who is the best team in Apex Legends esports. If you've been joining us here now in this broadcast, you might be wondering, all right, new year, what's going on? We know the champion GoNext are now under the banner of Na'Vi. We know legend bans are here. We know we've got Broken Moon and World's Edge is out. But what might have you missed as well? We have a little topic today that we're going to run through some conversations and just open things up for those on Twitch chat. So feel free, or YouTube chat, to comment with us. We'll read your chats. We'll get engaged. But for me, I wanted to talk about one of our favorite coaches. The best part about this is that he's not here to lose his voice. Privacy, I always joke with him saying he talks so much to these players that he's always got his voice lost by the time he comes on broadcast for us. But he doesn't need to have his voice lost for a tier list. So let's take a look at Privacy's tier list heading into this year. Obviously, he is a great analyst. He works for Falcons. Give him some love. Check out the tweet. He said, "Fight with me if you do not like it." Wow, I don't know if I'm going to fight, but I also do.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way already.
Mark's on the way. Yeah, really, Privacy. Really want to say that. Alter is up there, and I think one of the things that we've seen in Apex Legends as well. Big shout out to Respawn, the entire team. Obviously, some huge aggressive patches that have pushed some of these characters into relevance. Ballistic at B, somebody I played, but Alter more importantly at S. We know how good Ash has been. We know how good Catalyst has been consistently, but really you're going to see a lot of Alter, I think, in this moment. So excited to see that. You guys let us know if you agree in the chat as well. And obviously that impacts who might be the team coming out on top. Mark, and speaking of teams coming out on top, who do you think has the edge heading into year 5?
I don't know yet, but kppol.com is giving it a good go. They're going to have a look at some world rankings. They've kind of ranked a few teams based off of scrim results and everything that's been going down recently in the Apex Legends Global Series. And if you want to check out some of their world rankings, which we'll show you in just a second, then you can see if you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe there's some few teams that you...
Mark.
You've got to fight me in New Orleans on Bourbon Street. That's not true. kppol.com, check it out. One team I do like seeing on there, by the way, in that top 25 is Stallions, because I think they're a little bit of a dark horse. I think they've been performing extremely well in scrims, so I kind of like what I'm seeing there. And we'll have to see at the end of the season if it's going to look something like that. Dan Gaskin.
Yes.
What have you been doing? What have you been up to?
I have been on Scrim Watch. These glasses are on.
The glasses are on for it.
Cares?
Stylish, man.
Is where we've been at, guys. I mean, of course, it's very important for all of these teams to be practicing leading up to Pro League and to LAN events. And we recently had A and B scrimming against each other. Big shout out to EEC, the Eternal Esports Club, for putting these scrims on so we can kind of see where people land. Now, Alliance did lead these scrims. They won it with 65 points. Legion Gaming following up, as did GG in third, Alice fourth, and you can read the rest. Now, something you might see at the bottom left-hand side of your screen is the legend bans, and perhaps that gives us an idea of what's going to happen today. Ash disappeared after game 1, as expected. Catalyst after game 2, very similar to North America there. Then Wraith game 3, Alter game 4, and Newcastle game 5. So is that what we're going to be seeing today? It is kind of what I was expecting coming into these games, but maybe there'll be a few changes from some of these squads here rain day.
Yeah, it's so interesting too to see, you know, how these bans will develop. We'll have a chance to see that firsthand in just a few moments. The players are getting ready. But if you have not caught up with one of the best teams on that world rankings, Alliance specifically, then you need to. One of the best ways to do it, maybe to check out Jumba's YouTube channel. He works with us all the time at the ALGS. He just had a video talking about the rise of Apex's new best team. And I'm not going to go into the thumbnail, which obviously a little bit of a, you know, clickbait, chokers to champions. Is that what hockeys would want to hear? I mean, Jumba, you know, those are fighting words right there. Mark might have to fight you just for that as a result.
I'm put in front of the riot crowd at the moment. I'm here for it, though.
At the end of the day, we do love Jumba and all that he does for us. Amazing stuff, man, and congrats as well. Obviously, you know, Alliance, Mark, heading into this, it's got to be the favorite. Obviously, EMEA too, the favorite here. So it's great to highlight this org, not this org, Alliance, but also this region and the impact that they've been having as we kind of come to a close on what you've missed.
Yeah, I think Alliance have got a lot to continue forward with. I think they're going to be one team who was very excited about legend bans as well, because we always know historically that Alliance have like dipping into the pool a little bit, like to try and get ahead of the meta a little bit and mix things up. And I think they're very confident on different legends. And just to confirm, by the way, I don't actually want to fight anyone. This is like some weird narrative that's already started, and I'm not a fighter.
It's year 5, Mark.
Year 5, I'm scrapping apparently. So yeah, against my will.
Yeah, no, Mark, really lovely guy. Really more of a hugger than a fighter, to be fair, even though he is quite big and goes to the gym.
Just don't cross me.
Often. Yeah, just don't cross him. But really, guys, it's awesome. And of course, if you are checking out Apex Legends here in year 5, we're welcoming you. We're excited. In the chat, remember to keep talking to us. We will talk back to you at halftime. We will highlight some of your comments and some of your parts of this conversation, but also if you are watching, there's a few ways that you can tailor your experience to really be what you desire. And of course, I'm talking about FaceIt Watch. You go to faceit.com/watch, and the beauty of this multi-view is not only the fact that you get to enjoy FaceIt your way with Apex Legends, whether it's clipping something and bringing that into the conversation like we mentioned at halftime, or just watching a player that you love. Remember Na'Vi, you want to see them, you know, and how they talk to each other. Every rotation your way when it comes to FaceIt and the ALGS. So check out faceit.com/watch. Guys, what a time. You know, year 5 is really on the cusp. It's right here. And obviously at the end of the, you know, kind of, I guess, end of the year in February. You know, my time is all off because I just had a daughter 2 months ago. So February, January, I don't quite remember where we are, but coming from such historic proportions, having the opportunity to now, you know, look at this year and say, you know, we ended and we started. There's a real opportunity here, Mark, to kind of state your claim as to what this is going to be about, especially with EMEA, a region that has clearly shown and proven now they're not just contenders, they're champions.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting last year that we've had. I think if you looked back at year 4 at the start, there was this general feel that EMEA was not the region that maybe people thought it was maybe in year 1 and year 2 of the ALGS. And there was this fall off, but boy, did they prove everybody wrong. I think everyone was almost felt like they were waiting for Alliance to get over the line. They weren't sure if they were ever going to, and they were like the great hope. But then seeing the performance of like GG, the performance of other teams like, you know, GoNext, like we talked about under Na'Vi now, who win the championships. I mean, EMEA has stood up, and now I think it's down to the bigger regions, you know, NA looking at you to answer back a little bit when it comes to those global competitions.
We'll see them a little bit later on this afternoon. If you're watching with us, we got a full day of Apex Legends Esports. But for now, guys, the players are loading in. The game is about to get ready. So it's time, Mark and Dan, to get it going. Let's kick off year 5 here in our ALGS.
Let's do it. Let's get going. It's been a while, hasn't it, Dan? When was the last time you did this? Because I've got to be honest, that rehearsal was very important for me to remember how to do this job. It's wonderful to be back. Dan, it's great to be back alongside you. And boy, have we got some stuff to talk about over the next few hours.
It's been long enough that when I turned my camera on, it didn't work. So now I have to use a backup camera today. But don't worry, a new cable is on its way for later on. But I can't wait. I'm very excited for these first set of games because we just don't really know what to expect. I mean, first of all, let's talk the fact that we don't have World's Edge anymore. We've got
by the way,
E-District for today.
I'm very sorry to cut you off, Dan, but everybody in the chat, wherever you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're watching right now, please join Dan Gaskin and myself in a moment of silence for World's Edge. Okay, Storm Point 12 starting. You can carry on now, Dan. I just felt that was respectful. You know what I mean? Like, so many moments.
It was needed. World's Edge has done us so proud throughout the years, but, you know, sometimes we just have to move to new things, and that is going to be E-District back on our screens. And, of course, Broken Moon is in the rotation, but not today. Only Storm Point and only E-District. Now, a big thing from the POI draft leading into today, Mark, was that everyone focused on Storm Point. I think there was only 3 teams who picked in their first pick something on E-District. Everyone else prioritized Storm Point, and I think that is going to be something to discuss as the season goes on. We know full well that E-District is a little bit more fair when it comes to POIs. There are plenty to choose from, whereas Storm Point, there are going to be key areas you want to go for. Of course, people want the Tridents, so they start picking those POIs, and others just prefer certain areas for their rotations.
Well, here we go then, everybody. Year 5 is here. The Apex Legends Global Series is officially back, and we are underway here on Storm Point. It's going to be Dan Gaskin, the beautiful, the handsome, the talented man, alongside me, who just keeps getting put back on the broadcast. Anyway, let's start off with the world champions, who probably completed the biggest underdog story we have ever seen in the ALGS, but now expectations have changed. They are expecting to go on to win more championships. We're talking about Na'Vi.
Yeah, would we have thought we would have been saying world champions looking at this roster last year? It is a big no. It came out of nowhere, but it was one of the greatest stories to come out of year 4, just to show that, you know, from Challenger series all the way to the World Championship, it was so good for these 3 gentlemen on your screen. Now, one big thing I'm going to point out straight off the gate here, Mark, they are not playing Ashe. Now, we are expecting Ashe to be banned. It is going to be the most popular legend in this first game, but they are opting for a different kind of composition here. Maybe something that will stick through several games.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at, actually, going with Valkyrie as well early on. Maybe not a legend that we've seen as one of the priority picks, so to speak, but one legend that they do have in their composition here is going to be FaZe. Now, this is an interesting talking point because we're talking about controller legends, and when you look at the power of certain legends that we're seeing picked at the moment, some of the controller legends maybe fall a little bit behind the curve with what they offer, but of course they do offer that ring console. Now, FaZe fills that role for you. You get them onto blue, you can hit the ring console. So that's why we're going to see quite a lot of FaZe, and I think a lot of teams are actually using it, and we don't see FaZe banned until a little bit later on, maybe just because of that, kind of getting through the cracks when it comes to the ring console legends.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes as we go on throughout the season as well, of people trying to work out, you know, what's the best way to start with your legends. Do you want to go for something that is going to be a little bit under the radar? Are you able to keep your kind of play style? And are you going to follow the shift? I mean, it's something we've seen year after year where a composition starts to get used more, everyone copies, and that could just be within game to game. Everyone knows, oh, you have to play Ashe game 1, otherwise you're losing out, for example. Well, a team that showed us they had plenty of legend depth last year was the Cybercats. Now, of course, they have made changes. It is going to be a different roster that you see on your screens, but they're going to go for something a little bit more normal, what we would expect. You've got Ashe, you've got Alter, and you've got Catalyst. I love this composition. You've got Assault, you've got Skirmisher, and you have a controller too.
Well, just to give you an idea of where Zone is going to be going, I think we've got a little bit of an issue with the HUD to show you at home, but we are going to be going towards Jurassic, so it's a bang-centered zone. As we're seeing Na'Vi, world champions, being reminded that everybody else is now chasing them down as they have a big target on their back. It's going to be Infinite who take down 2 players, and one did manage to scarper away, but not the start the champs would have wanted.
Yeah, I think that's just an indication as well that you can very much go from hero to zero in a battle royale. There's going to be a few teams all trying to scatter at the moment, trying to get through this mid ground to try and get closer towards that end circle that we're expecting, as you previously mentioned. And people have been able to utilize the cat wall to be able to get away from others. That's another reason why Catalyst is such a big pick at the moment and why we often see her banned in the first couple of games.
There's a lot of teams already in and around Jurassic. Just a lot of quick rotations here in our first game, which is always something that I love to see. You know, you watch scrims, you get an idea of maybe who's fighting well, who's shooting well, but they always play so different to when we get into these Pro League games, when we get into the ALGS games. And now we're seeing a situation where I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least half of the lobby inside of where this zone is going to be going. Ring Console's been hit by the majority of those teams. GG certainly do have it as well. And you can see there's not a lot of ground to really play. And everybody who's already here, well, you're hoping you've got a catalyst to defend these buildings, to reinforce these doors, but you've got to be so aware of Alter now. It really does change the dynamic of a building hold, because you can get abducted through walls, you can get people falling down through the ceilings, you can have people from the outside coming in. It really does just make you have to play not just your head on a swivel, but every single body part and joint that moves.
Just need to be careful you're not touching any wall, otherwise you could be abducted, as you say. We might not see as much Alter on Storm Point, but we've already seen a couple poking through on our screens. She'll definitely appear very prevalently when we get over to E District, though. That's when I'm expecting her to eventually be on the Legend ban list. Now, BPR going for that Watson that I was speaking a little bit earlier of as well, just having a controller that isn't Catalyst so that you can stick with it throughout the rest of the series, or at least to the latter stages of it anyway. But a couple of those early fights have now subsided, teams just eyeing each other up and seeing what spots are actually still playable, because there are 3 key choke points to get into this area, and if you can hold one of them, there could be a good amount of KP to come your way.
And one thing to note, the world champs, which I'm going to keep saying, by the way, you can start a counter wherever you are in the world, because I'm going to keep enjoying it. It's Na'Vi, and they've got back up to a 3. They've managed to res over Echo HQ, so a good job to survive and give themselves an opportunity back in this game. One problem for BPR, by the way, just white armor at the moment. So you talk about holding one of those chokes, trying to hold teams out. If you get picked and someone's got blue or purple, they're going to just send it on you, knowing that they can easily win that fight. One team who's already up to purple, and speaking of blues and purples, Alliance are on purps, and unlucky. Hey, surprise, surprise, the bullets are hitting its targets.
Very interesting to look at Alliance composition as well, because, I mean, these are 3 legends that are probably going to get banned game 1, 2, maybe 3, if not 4. So this is when we will see that depth we were talking about from Alliance. Who do they change to? Are they good at doing it? Well, they certainly showed in scrims they are, as they really want to be able to take this team on right now. You can see there's big pings coming out of Unlucky when he gets some of that damage down.
Well, it's GoNext on the other side of this. They've got to be very careful, though, because FaZe are having a little look at this from the choke. You can just see that sliding down here. So everybody's got to be aware. And one player who maybe isn't aware enough is Henchman, but he is just about aware enough. Down to 1 HP. Kinda's going to go down here as Unlucky with the P20s. Get ready to say that a lot. He's going to be one to get a knock as well. Unlucky now. Comes back through a port. Tyler's going to go down. This is turning into a little bit of a skirmish here between the 3 teams. Zenetic will get one. Zane's still full shields, but not able to get too involved. It's a frag grenade going down from Effect as well, and Zane says, you know what, I'm going to have to port out of here. This is not looking good for FaZe.
Yeah, we've seen Zane pull off some crazy things, but it is not going to be surviving today. FaZe will be eliminated first. High hopes for FaZe in this series, but it's sadly going to be an early exit for them in game 1. Alliance looks like they're going to get back up to a full 3 as well, thanks to a beacon they can use, and I don't think GoNext are going to be able to push them quick enough, but maybe just seeing the dropship in the sky might have them send it a little bit sooner.
Can we talk about what an insane hold that was from Alliance, by the way? They were essentially getting pinched by GoNext and FaZe, managed to wipe FaZe, and had done enough damage in the meantime to GoNext to back them up, and now Atom's going to be the first one to go down. Alliance, scary looking.
We didn't actually get a chance to mention the P2020 in the opening of the show, but it is
don't worry, there's going to be plenty of opportunity.
We're going to be talking about it a lot today. It was the most used weapon in scrims. It's going to be the most used weapon here today as well. Now Na'Vi under even more fire, even more duress, and it looks like 2 of them have already fallen. No, Ujako, he goes down, just Shazam.
Down on his own on the Valkyrie. 2 players alive here from Ronin as well. They're going to at least be able to get a res as well, as MG Clutch will go back up. One of the biggest rank grinders we saw in the previous season as well. Really did put his name on the map as a player. We'll have to see if he continue to grow his story a little bit through this season of the Pro League as well. But it looks like for now, Zidane has managed to escape once again, thanks to picking himself up some wheels. Although I say wheels, we all know that they're floating cars.
Yeah, it looks like Na'Vi will at least get the chance to live and fight another res, maybe, and it's just going to be the battle of trying to get back on your feet over and over, but there's going to be less space to do so now we've got further into this ring too, and at the moment it's just about trying to avoid all this gunfire, but looks like Zidane has done the job, and maybe, just maybe, Na'Vi can get back up on their feet, because of course they do have the Newcastle available to them. They have got the support legend, they've got the ability to get him back in the game, and it's going to be fun, because I think Newcastle is a very popular legend choice, but hasn't necessarily been banned as early as I thought he was going to be.
Well, Zidane's got to be very careful. He should be able to pop the med kit and get the syringe off. His timing's going to be better than mine is, for sure. But it's about, like you say, getting back into the game here. That's 2 fights that have not gone according to plan here for Na'Vi so far, but still alive in the game, most importantly. Back to the zone, back to where we're going to be pulling. And we're actually going to be pulling up to the hillside a little bit more, where we saw some of those interactions around the buildings a little bit earlier on. GG in the feed for the first time. It's going to be Taskmaster who's going to fall to the scout.
Well, Exo Clan, who I mentioned and highlighted in the pre-game as well, they struggled a little bit in the latest scrim where I watched them. It wasn't AB, it was, I think, AC. They were down in 19th place, just couldn't get going on any of the games where they got into things. They struggled a little bit with their composition choices, which surprises me. Maybe they can be a little bit better today, as Legion now starting to march on towards, and it looks like they think they might have found someone to fight here.
A shot's coming in from Miscam. The catwall's going to go down as well, as they're trying to cut off the fire that might come in from the top. The POI that they find themselves at, trying to just cut this and isolate this fight completely. Flex's going to fly over. Jahan's got ample armor though, and that's going to make that fight a little bit awkward. Kind of just full sent that one a little bit there, Flex's. Maybe just looking for a little bit of damage and then trying to survive. Can't get back through the port either, and Ronin will hold.
Yeah, it's a great hold from Ronin. You've got to be very confident if you are going to be sending on a team, just because you know they have those kind of P20s available to them as well. But now it's going to be just another chase. Could have been an epic hold, but it is not going to be. Ronin will survive, and Legion Gaming get eliminated. I mean, we've seen some crazy 1vx's, especially with the P2020 in some people's hands.
Fun fact, by the way.
Yeah.
This is this. I bet you, even though it will only be 5% of the people in chat who will go, oh, still worth knowing, right? P2020, everyone else, you know this. It's cool. P2020, auto fire. Don't have to tap. Just hold it down. Those 2 things will go off. So that's why you're seeing that. That's why you're seeing a lot of very, very, very convincing looking sprays from them. Huge output damage as well. GoNext will be down to 2 here and outside of zone, so they've got about 55 seconds to make their move. They do have the Ash available though, kinda. Will be able to look for a port, but doesn't actually have it available. Still 60% needed. But we'll get the banner. They have an evac if they want to try and rip that out of the back of the zone at the moment to try and force their way in, but it's looking pretty rough for them. I'll be back.
Percentages, by the way, 90% pick rate on Ash, so she will be banned going into game 2 with the new legend ban system. So any players who like to use her are going to have to change things up, but that's to be expected. That's what scrims have showed us throughout both regions. Every region really is that Ash has been the #1 pick. You can see in the kill feed as well. Cat currently under a little bit of fire. Max Strafey getting the knock and finish. The Na'Vi
right in center of zone that as well.
And they are starting to arrive from the south.
Well, 3rd time lucky here for Na'Vi, maybe. They do have the Valcott available here for Zidane. That looks like it might be the play. Have just been eliminated. Like you mentioned, that was the team who were bang in the center of zone in one of the priority spots. UAIM have also gone down as well. They were one of the teams who were involved in that fight. So everybody who's in zone is still scrapping to try and create more space for themselves. As you can see here, as soon as one fight takes place, usually in the middle of zone, everyone else wants to try and third party it to claim that spot of their own, and that's what you're seeing with the exchange of fire inside these buildings.
Always a concern when a crypto EMP goes off as well. Expect to see plenty of crypto throughout today. Might just go under the radar of the legend bans, but can be very prominent in some of these late game fights. It's going to be Danish, another squad that could put some big points up today if they get going. But it looks like they've been able to hold this building and they've just stay away. And speaking of holding a building, well, Na'Vi are going to hold the outside of the building. I said how much I like Newcastle, and this has always been one of the reasons why. You can kind of build a base anywhere.
GG trying to hold out BPR here on the edge of zone. They're getting tethered, they're getting pushed. The portal's a little bit of a desperate one by the looks of things. They're actually going to catwall them off to force them away. And BPR just stuck in a corner at the moment. Kyler's trying to do what he can, but GG, they want these kills. This should be free KP. If they can just avoid the LOS of the teams who are in zone and in cascades, they should be able to clean this up.
I was wondering whether Blast was going to have a peep through his own Dark Veil, and well, the Dark Veil goes down, and it is just easy pickings as soon as it does. The curtains open, and there is plenty waiting for them.
Oh, BPR gone. Light's got to be careful here. Has to port back towards his team. Just about manages to do it. They were a little bit low on resources the way they were sharing things around, and they still have some distance to go. No surprise to see them opting for the Newcastle in their composition in game number 1 as well. We know that Lufka, one of the best Newcastles in the world. Not to see how this lobby plays out with Legend Bands as to how long they're going to be able to play it for. Unlucky Hackis and Effective Alliance, though, who have already got a huge amount of KP at the start of this game. They are that team who's pressuring them in cascades as GoNext, having got back up to 3, find themselves at 2 again.
Yeah, they find themselves at 2 and also in a terrible position right now. Look how far they have to go and traverse this map to get to the next zone. It is a matter of just trying to survive. But maybe you have to change your style here. Maybe you just have to try and stay alive and go for some kills. But you're just getting pressured from every angle.
Everybody wants a piece of GoNext. But Henchman's back on his feet somehow. So with the evac going down, they're going to try and escape this. Are they going to be able to spot out that this is a duo below them, A and X? If they can, they might be able to pick up the KP, but Kinda's gone down as well. GoNext, it's a little bit messy for them. They do get those kills, but now the zone is a problem for them. They weren't able to hit the evac due to Annex Esports just holding them up.
Annex eliminated. 14 squads now remain, and GoNext have to go the long way round, and they are going to meet a few teams that are already there and waiting. One of them is going to be Alliance, and they're also trying to stay alive. Hackers has already gone down. Unlucky is also going to fall, but Effect is still alive, and that means there is always a chance.
Well, cybercats are going to use the cat wall to try and move their way a little bit closer towards this zone. Alliance have been eliminated, so the early KP, the early hold that was so good for them. The zone, unfortunately, too difficult for them to get into to pick up any real placement points. GoNext have finally been eliminated as well, as we find ourselves with 12 squads remaining. Gaimin Gladiators have navigated their way using that Newcastle a little bit closer to zone as well. Cybercats will be the next team to fall out of the lobby.
Yeah, Cybercats go down. By the way, where the circle's moving, not a lot of playable space. All the teams are currently outside of the next zone, so everyone's going to have to fight their way in. So there's going to be some big fights that happen when people realize that. Maybe you have to take as much space as possible and might need a little bit of aggression, but this is where you can pick up some big points as well, because there are some vulnerable teams in these spaces, teams that have just been able to force themselves into zone and don't necessarily have the same kind of cover.
So Navi, by the way, who we mentioned is 3rd time lucky for them, trying to get anywhere near the zone. Well, they're just outside of it. They're still alive, and they're almost in the top 10. G-Dog's going to find one onto Light, but that's going to be an easy-looking reset. Maybe not. They're going to swing him. And that's GG out. They are not going to be able to reset. A really, really good push as Nemesis will fall as well. And Atlas, it might be a team to watch this season in the EMEA Pro League. Find some nice KP, and most importantly, I think for them, it was very efficient in the way that they cleaned that fight up without taking any knocks themselves.
You're already seeing some impressive fights from some of these teams. You always wonder whether nerves are going to be on show in the first games of Pro League, but some of these squads are not demonstrating that whatsoever. But this is the kind of circle I was looking at, you know. Danish, they have to try and traverse from the southeast here and force their way past 2 teams. It's going to be like Gladiators. Can you actually get past the first? And if you do, there's just going to be a second there waiting for you. But it has to happen soon. Zone's going to start tickling their back.
Q's going to go down as well, just to try and hold them up a little bit more. They want to try and delay that push across. Navi's still on the bottom as well, so any damage is taken by either team, top or bottom. There's a third-party opportunity that could present itself. Danish now, we saw them win that fight against GG. Well, now they've got to try and win a fight and do some damage on their way towards zone. Tripod Thor's going to find one for them. That's going to create something, but Atlas will be eliminated as Na'Vi now somehow or other are into the top 8.
Into the top 8 and just keep surviving. The Newcastle, so prevalent here and so important for their survival. Now they've got the shield they can move forward through, and now they might be able to take out the teams to their right as well. Na'Vi doing very well here.
stay healthy. Got Exoclan eliminated as well as we find ourselves with 6 squads now remaining. The Res coming in from the Newcastle. Can Na'Vi get back up to their full complement? Yes, they can again. Infinite have gone. And Na'Vi, remember, were 1 kill away, 1 player away from being out in 18th and 19th respectively. And now in the top 3, there are Tenacity go down, Danish go down. Na'Vi could win this, but now they're getting swung.
They are getting swung, but now the res attempt does come through. It does not work, though. 2 squads now remain. And are Ronin going to be able to clean this one up? But no, nothing slammed.
There's a big slam. The damage is already there. He's just trying to buy some time for his teammates to get in position. They surely should be in a good spot to win this one. It's a 2v3 if I'm not mistaken, and Forbidden will be your champions. They're the first champs of year 5 here in EMEA. And what a way to start things.
Well, an explosive end game there. It slowed down for a short while as everyone was trying to creep towards the zone, and it was almost a heroic attempt from Na'Vi as well. They were almost eliminated in 20th position and then somehow get to the top 3. I think I said, you know, that's Apex. You can go from hero to 0, but they did not quite go down. They kept fighting and they showed that champion mentality to get into the top 3.
Yeah, very impressive stuff. It felt like it was going to be the classic, you know, you called it the Na'Vi curse, but, you know, not my words, certainly your words. But it felt like that maybe was going to rear its ugly head once again after the first fight and then the second fight. And we were like, okay, maybe this is not looking like the Na'Vi game that we expected. But getting into the top 3 from the adversity that they fought through, very impressive from them. But it's Forbidden who came out on top when it comes to points. 12 points, of course, for that first place finish. 6 KP to go alongside it. But Ronin, 13 KP, not bad. Second place, 22 points overall for them.
Yeah, technically a win for them, really. The most points in the lobby. Forbidden take first. Na'Vi do pick up that 3rd place. And then just a good average amount of points for those who did finish in the top 9. Of course, it starts to go down a little bit further south when you get into the second half of those teams. Although Alliance, you know, 4 KP, consistency is everything throughout Pro League, of course, putting up as much points as you can. And even if you have a dud game, if you can just put up kind of 5-6 points every single time, that's going to keep you there or thereabouts in the conversation. So not the end of the world for Alliance. It's usually a bad sign when you get 0 points, though. Let's be honest.
Top tier analysis. 0 points.
Michael
not
Owen,
good. And Michael Owen would be very proud of that. If you noticed in the top right as well, you just saw the next legend to be banned, who won't be available for the next game, is Ash. So there will be no Ash available due to the pick rate in that game number 1. Kind of following on what we expected to see from scrims, Dan.
Yes, I think Ash has just been the most popular legend in Game 1. Is so integral to some of these compositions for her abilities to kind of enter fights quickly, exit fights quickly, and just, well, she's damn fun to play, let's be quite honest. I think we've all had a run with her in ranked, but not going to see her for the rest of this lobby, sadly, as she's going to be banned in Game 1. But that leads to, you know, who comes next? Do we see a Wraith start to be added a little bit more? Are people going to start to head for another Assault character, for example? So I'm intrigued to see where we go.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what these bans are going to be, and we'll of course find out when we get back from this break, as game number 2 is just around the corner. We're heading back to Storm Point in just a few moments.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ALGS Year 5. We are kicking it off, Mark, and in EMEA, things have already gotten intense. You had a chance to call with Gaskin, and now I'm here giving him a little bit of a break. You know, Dan said I can only do 1 game, guys. It's in my contract. Then I need at least 2 games of a break, you know, but, you know, we're used to working with him. We know how he gets.
He was late today as well.
Yeah.
Camera broken.
Right.
By the way, I like how you're getting like closer and closer to me. Like,
I'm trying, man. You know, they said basically,
come back, dude.
They said basically get as close to Mark as possible so that you know you can have a great time casting with them.
I can't promise that.
You know, at the end of the day, it's a new year, guys. You know, we're getting back into it. Huge plays though, Mark. Walk me through kind of what happened, you know, obviously with Dan here in this final circle.
I mean, it's interesting, right? We followed the game from the POV of Na'Vi, understandably, towards that end game where they were one of the last teams to survive those final moments, that building. They got the Newcastle wall down, and from what looked like a disastrous first game, they get into the top 3 with some decent KP, but the real story was Forbidden because they ended up with the most KP on the lobby. They completely wiped this eastern side of zone, and then as that final fight took place, they were able to just move in pretty comfortably. Third it, as you wait for in those top 3 situations. Just nearly destroyed my PC there, by the way, by knocking over a glass of water, but it did that thing where it goes whoop, 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 and stays up, right? Yeah, it's a great first game for them and certainly a confidence builder after the first game.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge too. You have some PSQ teams, Ronin, you know, Forbidden coming in and having some success in these early moments with year 5. That's a big deal to get that confidence under your belt as well. And I think Ash, I mean, another conversation for those jumping in. I mean, she's been fun. Dan said we all played her in our ranked games. It's true. Like Ash has been the kind of story of the last maybe month or 2. Obviously, she got so buffed to the point where they actually had to tune that down, get a little bit of nerfs. But now that she's gone, Mark, where does that leave us, you know, heading into it? I mean, obviously we've seen different bans, different play styles, but you know, with 90% of a pick rate, I mean, a lot of these teams already have to have an understanding of where they're going next.
Yeah, understandably so. You know, Ash is, I mean, I think the wonderful thing about the timing of legend bans coming in right now is that like every legend is viable at the moment. Right. With TTK, with everything that kind of combines together, every legend is genuinely viable to play. Even, you know, you look at Privacy's tier list and some of the ones down the bottom, you could probably still play them and get away with them. It's not like it's so out of reach that you're not going to be able to do any damage with it. But I think when you're looking at, you know, Ash falling out, it's one of your aggressive fragging characters, right? So you're going to look to replace with something that's going to fulfill the composition. So you're probably going to look at something like Wraith coming in. And I've got to say, I've been having so much fun playing Wraith recently, just having that.
How have you felt about her Q changes? How have you felt about that?
Love it. Absolutely love it. You know, you get up to purple, you get that perk where you reduce the wind up time by 30%. It just feels like Wraith used to. You know, you can get into battles, you can be annoying, you can queue out, you can portal onto third parties, you have that rotational ability. I really do feel like Wraith is like, everyone's starting to feel Wraith again. And like the old Wraith players as well, you can tell like they're pretty happy to be back on that character and she's playable again. So I think Wraith is certainly what I would expect to see come in to fulfill some of those, that role that Ash has moved out. Kind of a similar pattern in what you can do with the abilities.
Yeah, obviously taking a look, you know, at what we have in store with our next map at Storm Point for the first 3. We got 3 more. After that, a little halftime recap. We got some fun segments coming up at halftime. So by the way, chat, YouTube, Twitch, stay tuned. You know, we've got some good things. We're adjusting in year 5 and continuing to try to incorporate more and more of you. But E-District, that's going to be fun. And of course, Ash, you see her, she is banned right now. And that's an assault class ban. But Mark, really the kind of flavor of this last, I would say, week, which, you know, you and I have spent some time on this new patch. I'm sure many of you watching have spent a lot of time on the new patch. The skirmishers, you know, Wraith, not just the fact that she's got a Q that feels different. She's got some upgrades and adjustments, but the fact that skirmishers have this new benefit to the whole class, that when you get a knock, you get your ability, your tactical ability back. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? If you're Pathfinder, for example, who doesn't seem to be the, you know, the most popular pick, understandably so, in comp at the moment, but in ranked, you know, you grapple into a team, you get a knock, you can grapple back out again. If you're Wraith, you go in, you get a knock, you queue, soak up a little bit of time while your teammates come in. You know, it's such a strong thing. Plus, it's health regen as well. You know, you get a knock, you can get health regen. You finish the team off. It's all of these things make the skirmisher class so much more appealable or appealing, I should say, because I'm not sure appealable is a word, but
it worked for me. I don't know, when you say it,
understood
it
what I was
sounds
saying,
good.
but it's such interesting changes that I just think, like you say, just kind of open the door again for certain legends that weren't as popular, maybe not as given as much of playtime. It just gives it that option again. It's like, hey, you get this as well as the legend.
One of the best things about a new year is a new look, a new opportunity to continue expanding, a journey that is beginning. And yet we all know that with Apex, somehow we find a way to end even better than we started each and every year. Year 4 in Sapporo, now year 5 here online as we kick it off. Game 2 out of 6 for EMEA. The champions are in this zone. Will champions be crowned yet again here? We'll see if Natus Vincere can pick up the pace as we take a little bit of a look over at Mill. And
Beautiful Mill. I still love the thatch work they did.
it's just gorgeous.
You know what I mean? It's like Apex Legends in general, you look at the maps, it's a lot of industrial feel. But somebody kept it old school, kept that craft alive.
It's so true. 0-0 in Forbidden, second place overall in the lobby, and grabbing that scout. We've seen a lot of P20s, but pretty much if you're jumping into Apex as well, and we've kind of gotten into this, it's just everything has been buffed. That's kind of been the state of the game so far. All SMGs, extra bullet inside each level of ammo, from blue to the base mag, all the way up to purple tiers. G7 also got a little bit of attack speed buff as well, but you know, P20s, 30-30, headshot bonuses, these things have been kind of what we've seen a lot so far. 0-0 with the G7 though, with already a purple barrel. Gonna keep that one for sure.
Yeah, good points on the board. 18 points first game for Forbidden. If you're wondering where the zone is going, by the way, I've got you covered. It's my favorite zone for a number of reasons, and this one is a little bit of a behind the scenes reason. Right, okay, you ready for this?
Yeah,
so
I'm ready.
You'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. We have a wonderful floor manager at the ALGS events called Mark, who's Scottish. Hearing him say Launchpad is one of life's great pleasures, is all I would say, in his strong Scottish accent. So if you're at the event, I'm just saying, if you see him, just ask him to say, what's your favorite POI? And he'll say Launchpad. It's amazing.
Launchpad. I would say he would love the shout out, but he's obviously at a Celtic game right now, so he's not watching.
More than likely. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Celtic may not even play, but he's still,
just walking around outside the ground waiting.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody behind the scenes. I mean, there's really nothing like it. New Orleans, May 1st to 4th. You guys make sure to come out. It is the best to be live with us as you see that devastated coast Launchpad kind of pull towards the south, and Navi already in a little bit of duress here as Hyarka almost down to nothing, hits a quick shield cell, and tries to stay alive as they're under pressure.
Yeah, this is going to be actually a really good play from the Newcastle there. Xhako slammed up onto the height to get an angle behind one isolated player, which was MG Clutch, which has now allowed Na'Vi to just reset a little bit. He gets that knock, they get the finish, now it's a 2v3, and the team on the other side of this just can't afford to push it. However, they've got to be careful because Danish are around the area as well looking for these pieces. So it's an interesting one. I'm really interested, by the way, how certain teams are rotating so quickly early on in this game, even on white armors. You know, it doesn't feel like we're seeing these engagements, teams crossing paths early. Nobody's just allowing each other to pick up Evo first and kind of continue on their path. Everyone's being very aggressive on those early rotates should they run into each other. It's quite fascinating to watch.
Yeah, huge, kind of aspect to this moment here as well. It's just people trying to find the right tempo heading into kind of the new version of how Apex looks. Big crypto ult as well. Tempo always found by K-Swinny somehow. Dan said it's not a pro league without K-Swinny. I agree. And he knows it as well. Infinite trying to fire some shots and say, well, let's get K-Swinny out of this. Another headshot as well. You see why the 30-30 is so on point here, as Infinite with 8 points trying to climb up a little bit higher in the rankings.
Yeah, welcome back to the Peter. The Peter is back for sure. A couple of knocks going down elsewhere, by the way. I want to say shout out to Chaotic as well. You may know him from previous C9 rosters over in NA, back in EU now. His accent will feel more at home. GG moving up the hill a little bit more away from this zone. They're chasing down Forbidden are winners of game number 1, and you can see exactly why. They get their knock onto Aku, which is not just going to be a KP, but it's going to be the winners of game number 1 now very much on the back foot.
Ultimate accelerant here.
Blast being highlighted here is so much of his story is been on display in year 4. It's been amazing to see what GG have done over the course of last year, Mark. I mean, really a team that we hadn't talked about until last year, and then now suddenly is kind of the main focal point of EMEA conversation. I mean, they're so good, so consistent, and they perform well at LAN. Obviously haven't got that final win, but I think if you look back to Japan and you go next, I think a team that you also feel like outside of Alliance and EMEA that could have lifted that trophy easily, GG.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think it was a breakout year for not just the players, because I think people forget that Lufka was so close to winning a LAN previously as well. On the Ascend roster, you know, the moment that everybody knows and loves if you're a TSM fan, maybe not if you're an Ascend fan and an EMEA fan, but very, very close a couple of times now to being one of those EMEA players to break through and lift that trophy. By the way, Zone is packed right now, absolutely packed. We've got a lot of teams down Devastated Coast. We've got teams still over at Launchpad as well. And it's going to be a very interesting end game. Very similar pattern to what we actually saw in game number 1. Everybody get into zone as quickly and as early as possible. The only team that's been eliminated at the moment, I think, was ExoClan, who were down on this southern side that we saw a little bit earlier, taking some shots from that repeater. So 19 squads still remain, if I'm not mistaken. As we see the pick rate's also coming in. So Wraith has come in, 65% pick rate now.
That's a great call, man. I mean, right on the money. Wraith being used. MG Clutch now needs to clutch it up. Chaco kind of pressuring the issue as he should. Trying to find an angle here. Our most recent champions in Sapporo just a few months ago. 600K richer to the name. And of course, these guys feeling not only that bankroll, but also the confidence that comes with lifting a trophy in Apex Legends. 10 points. Obvious where you need. MG Clutch, Jay Hanzo trying to get out as well. Light and GG getting involved, and it's a little bit of a distraction and actually allows all of these teams to kind of make way and just ignore each other a little bit. It's too much going on.
Yeah, I think Ronin were down to 2. Zero Tenacity, excuse me, have just been eliminated from the lobby as the second team, but yeah, that kind of actually worked out a little bit for Ronin because they're down to 2 and we're trying to head back towards Bean to get a craft of those banners and get back in the game. So the fact that they saw a team who was on a Trident who probably panicked and were like, we need to get ahead of you, probably worked out for them. If they weren't on a Trident and they had to fight, it probably would have been GG for them.
And obviously, you can look at the fact that they are kind of towing this line, pushing from the edge position. And Zidane content to do what has worked for them in the past. Frick's here as we rotate over to Danish, playing on that Wraith now that Ash has been banned, and Crypto as well. Probably a character that won't be banned for a while, which is kind of a nice element of this composition, but already takes a bit of a kill. Sherb as well. Trix goes down. It's just Fricks. Looks like this could be the end.
Yeah, Vushi with some really good shots actually coming out there. He's actually trying to move in to make this all his own. He's gonna, you see the EMP went down to try and buy some time, but the counter EMP also goes down, which just makes this a very, very difficult reset. And it's more about survivability now for them. Elsewhere, Ronin and Forbidden having a little look at death boxes, and these are going to be from the point of view of Forbidden by the looks of things. Na'Vi are moving over to have a look at this as well. They've heard this fight going down, or have they actually heard the fight going down, or are they just looking to collect this Evo? This might be one of those situations where it's like, oh, we'll just go for the Evo, and then all of a sudden you're forced to fight, and that's what's happening right now.
At the end of the day, P20s and a dream, no longer a meme here. The dominance from Zidane in so many different versions. What an all-star in Apex Legends Esports. Now a champion and trying to do it yet again. Runs into the Newcastle wall, gets hit, but his team feels confident about it. Trying to stop the res here. Goes the Valkyrie. Tactical in between, and Zidane goes down. It's MG Clutch and Ronin who find the kill.
Gotta be careful of the third party here. Gotta be careful of the third party, but it looks like they've got back up to a full complement of players. They're healthy enough to hold off a push that comes up the zip line as well, but I gotta say, I like the attempt of the play initially, that 2v1, wanting to use the missile swarm to cut off that first player and isolate the 1v1. Unfortunately for him, just wasn't able to, and it's so frustrating still to this day to see you get that knock, and you're gonna be able to maybe turn it into a 1v1, but then you realize it's the Newcastle, starts dragging that player away, and you've got a 1v1 that turns into a 2v1 very, very quickly.
I mean, 2v1ing in Apex, that's a challenge in general. Doing it in this lobby, it's superhuman, essentially. These players so good. And they're not missing many bullets, I'll tell you that. So room for error, it's almost marginal. And Alliance with 5 points. Somehow not really getting the rhythm. However, I feel confident about it. Hockey's obviously a winner in so many different ways. Last year, they lifted a trophy. Now trying to do it with Alter on the buffs yet again. Let's take a listen in with Alliance, see how they're going to manage this fight.
I have 2 kills now, but I can take the powder.
Not a building team.
Can you look on me? I'm gonna get close.
Yeah, he's on left. Yeah. Behind the nest, I can't see it.
He's on the rock.
Don't reverse, so.
I'm scared. I'm scared to get him.
Yep.
No,
That's on the castle too.
50 on this guy. Can we swing it? I can swing him.
He's stream back, he's back.
I take a spot.
Okay. Within a sec.
72 cat, 72 cat.
Just got
on the corner, they're on the corner.
That's too far.
Play space on this.
One guy walking back, they're walking back. I think they're walking back.
Look at 130.
I'm pushing.
Okay, carry the other team. Carry the other team as well.
I'm dead.
Nice.
I'm holding it back,
Look is open.
Yeah. I'm playing.
Look is 30.
We get shot from the other
Look is 30.
That's all you guys. Rave TPing, okay, from building.
Yeah,
right now.
You should turn around.
Maybe on me, okay? I'm about to kill this.
Looking over you. Okay, we can't full commit. Gotta watch out.
Right for you. Looking for me.
Last one, Newcastle.
Yeah, all here.
Kill to
Hack is here.
Kill for you.
He's gonna die. Just show.
Yeah, he's on the tree. Dead. Let's go on here.
Walk up on me, guys. Yeah, I'm coming back. Come back.
I'm
holding for myself.
Void Next is possible here for Alliance if they need to take it, but so far so good. The P20s doing more work than a G7 scout at that range mark. They feel confident with not only those legend picks, but also those weapon picks as well.
Yeah, I'm down to rename the P20s to the P120s, because if you hit anything under 120, you're not a good enough player to be in this lobby. It's as simple as that. They really are devastating. And when you put, I mean, think back to the Mozambique meta, right? I kind of jokingly called unlucky Mr. Mozambiques because he just seemed to click with those dual weapons so well. And now you've got the P20s back, and he's got another opportunity alongside Effect to really put damage down in those close range situations. I also love how they're using the Void Nexus to command so much space. Forget about the P20s. There's another gun with numbers in its name that does a lot of damage if you headshot, and that's a 30-30 repeater. Great shot coming in again.
Ballistic ultimate as well, giving faster reloads, infinite ammo, and the ability for their team to move faster also. One of the benefits of Effect having that. And you can pop it in a way that, you know, feels a little bit more, I would say, like you feel almost you could waste it, right? It's one of those ultimates that you don't want to waste it, but you can use it liberally. And at the end of the day, maybe they didn't use it too liberally, because now all of a sudden, if Unlucky goes down, it's Hawk's Effect to try to pick up the pieces here.
Yeah, he's gonna port away here. Unlucky was caught isolated a little bit. You're gonna try and play for this res at the moment, but kind of pushing up. He feels all sorts of confident. Effect is not able to hit shots. He's getting pressured from the southern side of the map, as well as the team trying to push him. GoNext want to try and finish this one off. Hack is now trying to get in position.
Oh, they got
the res off. Wow. GG just been eliminated in the meantime, and Effect somehow have... This is the thing, right? The corner that Effect is playing, GoNext have a lot of problems actually pushing that, because they know that there's fire coming in from the southern side of the map if they try and swing it. So GoNext have got to be very careful here, and they've kind of prioritized staying alive more than playing for these KP.
Yeah, I mean, the enemy, if my enemy is my friend, essentially, in this situation. And the fact that you know you have pressure coming in if you leave means that the team can't swing on you because they don't want that pressure as well. Alliance now back up to 3. Effect trying to do it without a shield. GoNext! GoNext! Because Effect is here. That's kind of what he does. It's the headshot and easily turns this thing around. A situation we thought was the end for Alliance now looks like the beginning of their story, and they're looking in prime position here now to have a chance at game 2.
Yeah, FaZe eliminated in the meantime. Atlas look like they're in a bad spot as well, but let's take a second to appreciate Alliance. That's the second time we've seen them in a situation in 2 games where you felt like surely they die here, and they somehow managed to survive. Ronin just looking for some KP here. Q gonna come in from MG Clutch as he tries to just survive for a few extra seconds, but he's inside his zone here in zone 4. He's got to find somewhere to play, somewhere to try and survive. G-Dog's going to take the 1v1. He's going to win it, and that is the end of Ronin.
G-Dolphin bringing the experience, knowing exactly who he is. He's been competing in battle royales forever, especially in Apex as well. Makes great content, hosts tournaments, and obviously now in Pro League. Yet again, we get to talk about him for the next 10 or so league days. It's going to be very, very exciting. And continues to show off with Atlas, the new squad. Alter Portal's here taken away. And, you know, Mark, especially looking at Alliance and how beneficial that Atlas portal has been to them. That Void Nexus, the survivability, the options to reset, to have a knocked teammate go back to that. It's really been, you know, devastating is the wrong word, as Jans is here, but so impactful as G-Dolphin continues to play it on this staircase, low ground, and trying to push up here to find a kill. They're going to go in with the P20s. Should be done. Atlas going to add a few more to the tally.
Yeah, I like this play as well. They realized how busy it was in and around the building that they were in, just outside of Launchpad, so decided that there was an isolated fight that they could play, clear this side of zone, and then look to move up with a little bit of space to play from. The Catwall's going to go down as well. The evac goes down, which they're going to have to use to force themselves a little bit towards where this zone is going to be pulling, but it's extra KP, it's extra placement for them, and I just really like that recognition of how isolated that team was, as we see one of those Catwalls that maybe isn't quite as long as you want it to be.
These things happen as well. If you played Apex, you know exactly what it's like. But at this level, you cannot have any room for mistakes. For Bennett realizing that now as Slab goes down. Aku trying to stay a little bit alive, hits the shield battery, but goes down immediately to the P20 push. Alliance eliminated. Atlas still moving in from this corner and finding themselves on the northern side of the zone. Can they kind of carve out some space some more? G-Dolphin, while maybe a secondary storyline here in this game, has now maybe become the primary one. Is if they can clear this team out in front of them, we'll have a great spot to end.
Yeah, they've got some good KP. They've got a good position here as well. They've got the high ground. They might be able to pick off a few players down on the low ground, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They just have to be very aware of holding this team out that they're focus firing on at the moment. If they can do that, again, they clear their backs. That's what they tried to do previously that worked out for them. Nemesis eliminated in the meantime. We're into our top 10, making top 9 as Annex will be the next to fall.
Legion Gaming still up north as well, next to BPR. It's the team inside. Kyla, Optimus Vigil trying to push, make something happen. It feels like that's a desperation push there. Sees something. Black Venom goes down as well on Atlas. It's a 2v2. Slayer's getting the kill there. Formerly with Case winning. Him and Fuda split up. A different Exo clan, now a different BPR. And G-Dolphin just trying to stay alive on the Wraith. He's got the Q back in hand. He's also got the portal, trying to just shift up the situation, Mark. It feels like they're giving up on it, but this looks deadly.
Yeah, they did so well to reset there. A new Newcastle wall went down. G-Dolph gets the portal down and might be able to pick up Vushi as well. He jumps into the void though, hits the Q himself. This is a little bit of a sketchy position for them, but having managed to find their way here, they can survive, they can reset, but they will not have the Newcastle wall. That just got used up on the high ground, so it's just essentially natural cover that they have to play with at the moment. As Stay Healthy have the God spot. This height is so devastating, and now they're pinging down onto G-Dolph and the boys.
It seems like there's no way Stay Healthy doesn't come out at least in the top 3 here. High ground, they've got overlooking, but just trying to survive is what Atlas's game plan is, and they've done it. BPR eliminated. That portal from G-Dolphin was huge and just buys them a little bit more time, even just placement points that could matter big time heading into today. Oz is trying to find a way into the zone that's already been occupied. It feels like there's just too many people trying to get into too small of a space. Stay Healthy still on top, finding kills, and that's Atlas, and that cybercat's gone with top 5 left remaining.
It's such a good catwall that went out as well. It split the zone, it's allowed them to reset. This was the position that they took away from Atlas, but playing it a little bit later means that there's less teams who can focus in on you. Those LOSs that was from a busy zone have been denied. They also have a Newcastle wall that they can put down and have put down to protect them from that team on the southern side of zone. So this is your overlook at the moment. Stay Healthy still on this top spot. From here, you want to come out of this game, like you say, with at least a top 3, but also KP, and it looks like they're doing exactly that.
Yeah, great spot. For Stay Healthy, understood it, had the call, and part of Apex is just understanding these calls. You know, these zones are things that they've scrimmed, they understand, they've practiced, and at the end of the day, you have 2 different versions. Somebody who's like Stay Healthy, who puts themselves in that position, and somebody who's like, you know, G-Dolphin. I use it with Atlas because we just saw it on screen, just kind of trying to navigate. Now we're in a situation we don't want to be in, we don't know how to operate here. Let's do the best with what we have. That was a great spot, bought them 2-3 placement points, but now at the end of the day, you're seeing the strongest position Nations, Infinite, Stay Healthy have really a commanding lead here. UAIM also alive, Forbidden as well as Danish, who's in the corner as a trio. No one really paying attention to them, but alive and well in this top 5.
Now for Stay Healthy, they've got to drop down from that high ground at some point, and now they make that play. Falcons will get the knock. That's another KP they will secure. Can they reset here? Catwall goes down, which is going to split the zone again. Danish have gone down as well. We mentioned how top 3 is a minimum from this position for them. Well, that's what they've managed to achieve. The Newcastle wall will go down, but also they've got to be careful of the Ultra Q. You can see the attempted abduction coming in from the team across from them, but Stay Healthy outputting a huge amount of damage to force this team away.
4 squads left. Stay Healthy, 3rd place in the entire lobby. Altar portal there to be taken if they want, but also getting vision potentially, and the swing is real. Stay Healthy, not healthy anymore, as Infinite turns it around onto them. Yekui and Kizarone trying to survive now. 0-0 will fall also, as now it's just Artico and UAIM claiming the victory. We told you that no one was paying attention to them. Well, better look up, because they are your champions of game 2.
One team who didn't make any changes, and you can see that natural chemistry coming through for one of my favorite teams in the whole of the Apex Legends Global Series. We'll always want to see these boys succeed, and succeed in game number 2 they do. It was that big win against Stay Healthy where they were kind of in that 3v3 that gave them the position on that eastern side of the zone. Then it was just a case of moving in and cleaning up. They stayed healthy enough to keep 3 players alive, turn into a 3v2. For those talented players, a 3v2 is a situation you're not going to see them throw away very often.
No, and I think UAIM, you actually kind of gave a great point for those watching. Esports is often a very volatile industry. If you look at the macro aspect of it, teams that stay together for even more than a year, that's kind of rare. Even in Apex Esports, we've seen some tenured squads, but UAIM not making any of those changes, going through the adversity they've done, qualifying for LANs, not being able to go to it just because of personal global issues, and then still fighting it out, still putting themselves in a position to succeed in this pro league, represent. You can understand why their fan base is so strong, why you're such a fan, Mark, as well, and also why in esports it's an element of something that is rare to see. So people root for it, people who just stick by each other, whether you're up or you're down, saying we're going to work through it no matter what.
Yeah, I really want to see these boys qualify for LAN. I got to be honest with you. I want to see them back on LAN. I want to see them make it there, and I want to see them performing on the biggest stage. Something just to highlight as well as they come away from that game with 25 points, by the way, 13 KP alongside it, is the next legend that's going to be banned. We've seen Ashgon, now we see Wraith, the interdimensional skirmisher, which is a mouthful to say the least, is not going to be available for game number 3.
I wonder what Altars is as well. I gotta say, as we get a look at the series results,
it's like looking through a dictionary of words I didn't know existed.
It is. It's so cool though, but it's also it is a little bit of a dictionary as well. When you have like 6 legends or 9 when you start out, but now the game has 20. It feels like legends at least. You start to lose track of some of these kind of sub characterizations. Ronin on top already, coming in from our PSQ. Forbidden right behind them, and UAIM with a big win, 25 points. That'll put them in 3rd place. Infinite, Stay Healthy, rounding out our top 5. Danish staying involved, as well as Atlas, which we highlighted with G-Dolphin Alliance, kind of making a move, Mark. And Natus, Vincere, and ExoClan rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, just looking at the games that have gone, we've got 2 down now. We're moving into our 3rd game very, very soon. And I feel like after game 3, you want to be in touch, right? You want to be in touch with still looking at 1st place as a possibility. So this is a big game 3 here for all of these teams. Last one on Storm Point, of course, before we change over to E District as well. And I'm interested to see if Alta makes it through to E District, because Alta on E District really changes the dynamic of how teams can play that map. There's a lot to talk about with Alta, so we'll have to see if she makes it through.
Can't wait. Dan's going to be back after this one. We'll go to break and continue our ALGS action after this.
I am the protector of the weak, defender of the just, and lifter of damn heavy swords. Whew.
Go me!
I didn't get my sword from a stone, but I'm still worthy.
Taking damage.
I'm a hometown hero. I'm Newcastle.
Sony InZone, the official monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everybody. 2 games done already in our kickoff week here of the EMEA Pro League. We're into game number 3, the final one of Storm Point. Dan is back alongside me. Did you enjoy your break and did you enjoy the game?
I did enjoy both simultaneously, actually. It was good to watch the game with a small cup of tea. But now we have to talk about what's going to happen with these compositions, Mark, because as you alluded to, we lose Wraith. So now who do we see banned? Now, Catalyst is probably going to be the next up to be banned, I would have thought, because I think she was very close to being the same number as Wraith. So maybe we see a few more alters start to pop up. We have seen Bangalore be a pick in EMEA, which is not something we've seen in the Americas. So we'll have to see whether that pops up.
Well, let's take a look at the final circle from that game number 2 on Storm Point, finishing right down on the southern western side of the map. It was Infinite who were holding this spot for quite some time, being able to take down FG in front of them here. Forbidden Game, by the way, putting up good points once again, considering they had a little bit of a rocky start to this game. But, I mean, we talk about the P20s. Let's not forget about how devastating the Havoc can be. And then, you know, when you've got Havoc, it's always good to have P20s, you know, because just think of the output of damage. They go down to 2, unfortunately, and it was a simple job to just move in the 3v2 at the end of this. But UAIM, one of the teams, like we mentioned, not making that change in the offseason, all coming back together to play in this split and looking to make it a statement season for them, as we can see here. One more match on Storm Point before we head over to E-District.
And I like that you mentioned, you know, I really want to see Alter be available on E-District. And I think everyone would like that. And it should happen. I don't think Alter will get banned here. I think it's more likely to be Catalyst. But again, we'll wait and see when these compositions are actually picked. But you can see how games 1 and 2 finished and where the bans came through. We lose Ashe, we lose Wraith, and we won't see them for the rest of today. But one more game on Storm Point, a chance for those teams who did prioritize Storm Point in their POI draft, which was pretty much everyone, I may add, is going to be your last opportunity to get points. And there is confirmation of those bans coming through. So we lose our first skirmisher. Now, because of that, it means we won't get Ashe back in Game 6. There was a small opportunity if every Assault character got banned that she might pop back up. Not going to happen. But Mark, when we do get to match point, you know, all the way down the lines, when we start to get to the open, etc., it's going to be so interesting. We get to like a match 10 and seeing what these bans look like and the compositions that are going to have to be used.
10 teams on match point, and we see, I mean, like I mentioned at the top of the show, by the way, I feel like everyone is viable, but I would love to see like a match 13 with the weirdest comps we've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like someone winning with Vantage or something like that. It'd be great.
Pound, Vantage, and Mirage all popping up.
Yeah, and if that happens, by the way, we maybe do have a script, but it's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, the legend bans, like you see Ashe is gone, Wraith is gone, and I mentioned how it kind of changes things a little bit. You got to think about what both of those legends offer. Very similar, right? You've got Ashe, who has the dash and the portal available. You have Wraith, who has jumping into the void to stay alive, and also that portal available. So those rotational abilities now gone, and you're looking towards Catalyst maybe to be your rotational character. Maybe a Bangalore coming in now to fill that fragger / rotational kind of opening that's left in your composition. We'll have to see what legend comes in to fill, and it looks like Bangalore is in the action by the looks of things down.
Yeah, I am seeing a few bangs. Try and manually count it here and there. I'll try and get a number for you a little bit later, but definitely Bangalore has been included from a lot of these teams at the moment. And again, you talk about, you know, rotational ability. The smoke is going to help you just cut off some of those sight lines and move forward, so it is understandable. And also you know, the movement and the speed of Bangalore being offered to those same players who like to play Wraith, who like to play Ashe, it does make a little bit of sense. Like I said, not something we see as much in Americas, but something that has been somewhat prevalent in EMEA. Now, can UAIM go back-to-back? Can they find even more points to hurtle themselves up the leaderboards here? Very successful, and wow, there you go. There's all the legends for you. Quick math. Try and work out who's going to get banned next.
I'll give a shout out to the graphics team, by the way, who've put together new graphics for this season. Everything looks so clean. You know what I mean? Like, everything is so digestible. Oh, wonderful stuff. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully everyone who's watching at home right now is enjoying it as well. And for a team like Ronin, they're going to enjoy where this zone is going. It's looking like it's pulling out right towards the back of the kind of eastern side of the mill towards Cenote. We do see those rock finishes. Godspot probably going to be there, but difficult to play very, very, very early. So don't be surprised to see teams trying to play for those rock formations just to the north of Cenote. Might pull in a little bit later. Could be a zone 3 kind of game. Hit that beacon zone 3. Find zone 3 and throw and play off that.
My quick math would suggest that Catalyst is going to be banned next. Don't quote me on it, but
I trust you. I trust you.
13 teams with Catalyst and just slightly less. I think 10 or 11 with Bangalore. So we'll lose Cat most likely. Confirmation from behind the scenes. Yeah, Cat 13, Bangalore at 11. And that means we'll lose her. But that does mean we get a little bit more bang action, which is not something I was necessarily expecting. But the cybercats are not opting for any bang. They are still going to be running Alter. And the good news, Mark, we will have Alter for E-District.
We all love a bit of bang action. And that is what we're going to see in this game, as we already see some smokes. Distracting some LOSs. Cybercats, who have had somewhat of a quiet start. Certainly a team to watch in this season. So many established players on this lineup that we've seen before. Taskmaster usually up there when it comes to top fraggers at the end of splits. As we see Zero Tenacity make their way into Cenote. Ronin have stayed by Cenote as well. They did have a ring console at Cenote, which is going to give them the info where that second zone is going to be pulling. Danish are playing out towards the eastern side of it. So it looks like a lot of teams are banking on it pulling in towards Cenote by the looks of things.
Yeah, looking at where the ring's going, I think that's going to be the judgment from most teams. We're going to see a lot of early movers, but that means there's going to be a couple of early fights probably to fight for some of these more priority positions, and those who are going to arrive later just going to have to pick up the scraps of spots that are available to them. One of those being Danish. They're going to go for a big old southern rotate here to try and pull in from the south side of Cenote, and actually they can go deep in and find a building to work with, and even though it might not pull all the way down here, this could guarantee them like a top 10, for example. So I don't hate this play.
Yeah, going into the drone straight away as well, just to see what other spots a little bit deeper in zone might be available. This is a really smart, like simple, basic Apex Legends, but very smart. Also going to be able to hit the UAV, which is going to give them info on what buildings are free. So it's not just going to be manually kind of scanning with the drone. It's hit the survey beacon, get the information, and see what is going to be the next plan for them. Smart rotation from Danish. Hit edge of zone. They know they're going to have priority over a lot of other teams, and then kind of just inch your way in.
You saw they were dropping the evac tower as well, just to be maybe considering redeploying and finding a new spot to play, but they've noticed no one's really going to be shooting at them, so they're going to be able to walk on up. But speaking of people trying to reposition, a few teams are now taking to the sky and desperately trying to get over other squads that have been able to beat them on foot. Now, BPR, we've been able to check in with them a few times throughout. Only 2 points at the moment, and a very interesting composition to be used by them as well.
Optimus Fish 20. That's all I'm going to say. Gaimin Gladiators! Good damage going in early for them, and that's going to be onto UAIM. Winners of our game number 2, maybe not going to be able to repeat the same recipe here in game number 3. GG send it onto them, they get 2 knocks, and it's going to be a reset rescue mission here. For the last remaining member, Alter Port is going to be down. They're going to be able to escape for now.
It is interesting that a lot of these Watson teams have been able to just kind of stay under the radar a little bit, and I don't expect Watson to be banned throughout this entire thing, as GG now looking to try and clean up the final pieces, and UAIM unable to get away. It was a desperate attempt, but sadly, they will fall in 20th position, and that's just how Apex can be sometimes.
I think he stalled the Trident. You know what I mean? It got into it, just didn't seem to go straight away.
No clutch control.
Yeah. Most cars are automatic these days. You don't have to worry about that. But showing our age again, Dan. We used to have a thing called clutches in our day.
We had to use our left foot
We had to use our left foot to drive. Anyway, FG are going to be good. GG on top of the rock formation I was mentioning right at the start of this game, there's going to be a really good spot to play. Maybe not for the final end game, but certainly a lot of KP to be picked up from this position. Everybody rotating in a little bit later who doesn't move from the southern side and comes in from the north side. Checking in elsewhere, just on our map overhead here, while GG just kind of survey the area in front of them. Alliance, who had a couple of really, really good fights in the first couple of games, but just the end game management, their rotation in towards the final zone, not quite there for them. They're over a checkpoint at the moment. They have a lot of info to play with. They have a ring console. They have a survey beacon there as well, so they can plan their next stage of their rotate. Elsewhere, just looking down the southern side, you've got ALGS Esports are rotating from Barrow, Exo, and GoNext. 2 drones about to collide in midair there. Careful air traffic control.
Drone battles.
Yep.
We've said this before,
it's
a buff
pretty
that will come
stacked,
through
ready.
for crypto is that a drone can shoot. That would be fun. Or would it? There you go. There's a look at the land where Onset was talking about the rotations that are coming through. I think mentioning Alliance briefly, you know, they're one of the teams that can just suddenly pop off and have a big game, and that's why they're always a scary factor to be within the lobby. But they might be thinking about FaZe. I think they're aware that FaZe are behind them, and FaZe are probably also aware of where Alliance currently are. Now GoNext, the P2020s are firing into the Exoclan on the other side.
That's a really good fuse ult as well. Kind of has gone down though. So even though the fuse ult is good, the first knock does not go their way. The Exoclan, a little bit of momentum for them. We said these two teams were going to bump heads, and there's only one team who gets up first. It's Exoclan, all healthy. Arctic's got plenty of time to pop the battery here. GoNext have one member who's just about managed to escape by the looks of things, so it's not the end of the game. I wonder if Exo are going to chase this down. It looks like they're going to let him get away for now. So they'll take the KP, they'll take the space, and they will continue in our game number 3.
I think that's a comp that they won't see being banned. Maybe Ballistic could be banned in Game 5. We've seen it a few times, but they're trying something a little bit different there. 2 Assault characters, of course, to get the benefits of all the Assault perks. The Alliance now are starting to have a little look towards FaZe Clan. They were aware that they were going to be behind them, and they are trying to hold them out now, trying to see if they can pick up some of this extra KP that might be available to them.
Interesting decision here, actually, from Alliance to play for this fight, essentially. They were over at checkpoints. They've rotated all the way to down beast. I wonder if that was to his survey beacon, maybe for some Evo opportunities. I mean, just having the Trident gives them the option to essentially cover more ground to see if they want to take this fight. If they don't, then they can get towards zone nice and quickly. They don't have to worry about that closing in behind them and causing them a problem on their back. Elsewhere, just looking over at Mill. Mill is free for them to rotate into at the moment. There's absolutely no one there. There's also a survey beacon and a ring console if they want to play for that next zone information. So Alliance got a pretty clear rotate up until the edge of that zone. But much like our first 2 games, Dan, it is stacked inside of Cenote already.
Yeah, everyone moved fast. As soon as they saw that zone 2, it was one of the more predictable ones on Storm Point, so it allowed them to play that. And a couple of teams reluctant to fight because there are positions you can play in Cenote that even though if they're not the best, you can survive. And, you know, survival, getting into that final circle and then seeing what the lay of the land is, you could pull out a victory from an unexpected position. But there's going to be these teams that are like, you know, Legion, EXO, Alliance, BPR, any teams that are outside of the zone at the moment are going to have to force their way in. And some of these teams that might think they're safe will have to fight for their position. And that's certainly going to create some exciting engagements.
Optimus Fish 20 is just like one of my Steam names.
I can't tell if it was like just generated or whether like one of its parents made it.
It's generational. I've now got my favorite player in the Apex Legends Global Series.
Optimus Fish 20 wins the ALGS Year 5 Championship.
You never know. Nobody said GoNext was going to win it.
Yep.
And here we are, living in that world. Alliance then, we mentioned how they rotate towards Mill would be good. They're going to be safe inside this next zone. They did hit that next ring console as well, so... And we were thinking they were going to plan their rotation in. Kind of played out how we believed it would. But this is the difficulty for them now, working their way in. 19 squads remaining in this lobby. Only the 1 elimination so far, as round number 2 is about to close in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and Alliance are only halfway there. They still have to move further in. There's 2 teams holding them out at the moment, so it's going to be a question of whether they try and attack from a new angle, whether they just try and send it over the top of other teams.
I think kind of was doing that thing that you used to do when like you first got your driver's license, your mate tried to get in the car. You know what I mean? Just as they go to open the door, just pull away about 5 feet. Ewy.
I swear you've done that to me in game.
I file it under what I describe as a classic piece of banter.
It's all well and good until it goes wrong and then someone shoots you and clips
And I run you over, but I'm like, oh no. Anyway, that's where the zone is going to be going. Cenote is indeed going to be our final location. So teams like Danish, who we saw made that early rotate, they're in a great spot. ALGS Esports, who also rotated from the south, fantastic spot. Ronin, who dropped over here at Cenote. Good news for them. They did have that ring console. They're not going to be going down the Nasky route and all of a sudden have to, much like we saw last season when we saw some Cenote zones for them, no ring console, and then having to fight their way back in, having left. So they're in a really good spot here. A lot of pile up on that western side, though, around cybercats and stay healthy. All of those teams are going to have to rotate. Rotation is going to be made easier, though, as the mythic bin will pop up for Alliance, and the man who almost pulled off the impossible in the last game in Sapporo with that no-scope with the Kraber as a solo, well, he's got another chance here to try and forge a path towards zone now with the Kraber back in his hands.
Good news for Alliance is they do have a Newcastle, as do half the lobby. There's 10 Newcastles in the lobby, so there is going to be a lot of temporary barriers set up. Newcastle will go down so people can survive, and that might be another reason why we see so many teams still alive as well. With the amount of Newcastles, people are being picked up even if they get knocked, and thus people are reluctant to push on those fights because of the amount of Newcastles available. As kind is able to get a nice little shot there, and don't think GoNext going to be interested about pushing this one. Instead, it's about maybe just trying to dissuade FaZe Clan from pushing them.
FaZe's been very quiet so far. Only 2 points on the board. When you look at this team on paper, it's got every single piece that you would want to put together to have a successful, not just game day, but season as well. Two of the best controller fraggers. Cinetic has proved himself as an IGL. Let's go next. Ascend the ropes towards the balloon and we'll take to the skies.
Yeah, where'd you go? Where do you go? Okay, they found a
bridge.
A little slot. Yeah, a little bridge. This often is the... Oh, where did that come from? Hackers says thank you for arriving to my party.
Which for the second shot here is going to have to deal with his fuse queue. The knock-across is going to be annoying, but certainly not damaging. I like this from Hackers as well. You see, he puts down the port there, trying to drag the attention away, and now he can use it to not just portal through and get a good angle, but also potentially distract. But Unlucky has gone down. It's kind of with those P20s. Hackers is now under problem. He has to use the port to get back up to height and survive, but he's down at 1 HP. Misses the shot with the Kraber. Is he going to be able to put this bat into effect? Gets back up to red, but Alliance now find themselves down to just 1.
Puts the bat into himself, not into effect. That would be interesting, though, if you could do that. Instead, now Hackers has to try and maybe get some reses here, thanks to the portal. Does go down. And it looks like Alliance have a chance to reset here. I think because they started that fight, a lot of teams started to look towards Alliance, and they just got caught in the crossfire.
Well, Atlas have gone down. Hackers is still alive somehow. Certainly uncomfortable the way that he's moving around at the moment. But still alive, as is Kinda. Inside of Cenote, or just outside of it, I should say. GG. 1v1 going down here. They take down Cat. It's going to be Light who clutches up for them. Boy, Nexus is going to go down as well, as he's going to try and get his teammates a little bit closer to look to get a reset for them. GoNext now moving in onto GG. There's that spray from the P20s, Kinda. And GoNext, who have managed to get back up to a full complement. It's going to be 2 for him. He's looking for the 3rd as well. Last is going to be eliminated. GG will go down in 16th. 15 squads now remain.
Yeah, from nothing happening to suddenly everything. 4 squads getting eliminated. It was a lot of teams that were on the outskirts of Cenote that were trying to force their way in. They will now go down. So we have our winners of the outskirt battles, but now they have to do it all over again because the teams who have found themselves center zone and over to the southwest side of Cenote are just going to be kind of hearing all this commotion, looking around, and they'll be eagerly awaiting the arrival of more teams so that they can pick up some KP. Now, one of the teams that does have to move in here is EXO. They're actually the furthest team east here, and they've got cybercats and Stay Healthy ahead of them. And I don't know if the teams ahead of them know EXO are there, so they might be able to just shadow them here.
Well, EXO got to force their way in every time we see them. By the way, Alliance, Unlucky's back up. Effect is back up. Hackers has performed a miracle. Skynade's going down. Effect's trying to get some info. They're going to have to deal with the EMP, which means they're going to have to take some time to not have guns up. But instead, batteries in hand. Stay Healthy have been eliminated in the meantime, so we're down to 30. But somehow or other, Alliance, as Infinite will fall as well, are still alive here. They're going to use the Q to get inside of this building. This is an insane rotate coming in from Alliance.
This has been an Ultra masterclass and really demonstrating why she is so important in some of these compositions. She's been able to keep Alliance alive on several occasions here, and now they should be able to fully reset and assess this scenario of how they actually get to the end game. GoNext starting to lay down a little bit of suppression fire as well. Nemesis will fall. 11 squads now remain.
GoNext, again, one of those teams, much like Alliance, we're kind of shadowing a similar rotation as they were still alive and picking up KP on their way towards zone. We're almost into our single digits of teams remaining. 11 still in the lobby, but with the way they're sending it on to ExoClan, they might be putting it down to 10. ExoClan eliminated. We have 10 squads remaining.
Yeah, 10 squads, but there are a few of them, actually. There's about 5 of them on this eastern side that are all currently scrapping. And GoNext, they want a little bit more. They want more action, more KP, and they continue striding forward here. And they are big strides.
cybercats eliminated. Legion Gaimin gone down as well. You can see, unfortunately for them, they wanted to EMP initially GoNext. The drone was destroyed, which means they're going to have to wait a little bit of time for that EMP to come back to force their way in towards zone. And speaking of which, everybody's outside of it except for 2 teams. And Danish, the one team who own the entirety of this building. Now, it's not a building that can be shared. One team can play underneath, maybe one on top, but the actual inside area is going to belong to them.
6 catalysts left of these 8 teams as well, by the way. So expect this to be very hectic. A lot of Dark Veils are going to be going down. A lot of people are not going to be able to see. Actually, excuse me, 5 catalysts, because Effect is currently down. Unless they can get him back up, it would only be 5 catalysts. But that means that anyone who's playing Catalyst are going to be very important in this end game, because then they can dance through those walls and are not going to be impaired with their vision.
I like this from Hackis, by the way. He sees 2 teams fighting. He doesn't want to engage. He just wants to force them to take each other out. Catwalls have started to go down as we see the crosses make their mark on the grounds of Storm Point. Forbidden now. Aku left on his own. He's using an R9. Spraying! Turns it into a 1v1 with Jay Hanzo. A little bit of help from elsewhere as Ronin will fall and Aku will clutch.
Well, Lions might be able to jump on the back of this as well, by the way. Will they find the last player? Hackers goes down. Unlucky needs to try and at least pick him up and will do so. Forbidden eliminated, top 6. And Alliance continue to fight another day.
I don't know how Alliance are doing this, by the way. This has been such a rough game for them, but they are making it work as Henchman goes in, takes down Na'Vi single-handedly. Sends out the Ultimate as well from the Fuse to try and back this team down just to buy himself some time. Na'Vi 4, we're into our top 4 Henchmen with more KP here for GoNext.
Henchman just fired, he sprayed, he prayed, and he was rewarded. Alliance still alive, Danish still in the building, and Annex are on the south.
They get the reset. Alliance get the res.
Back in. It's going to be
get the res.
They're going to get that catalyst that I was speaking of. Effect is welcomed back into the lobby.
You have to wonder if they're going to have ult cells, though. There might be a few on the boxes that he's going to find. So Effect is landing in the perfect spot. GoNext have been eliminated, though. So now we're down to 3. And Annex Esports own the high ground.
Yeah, they own it. But are they going to be focused a little bit here? Because there's a lot of teams looking towards them. They're the only team that are on this southern side. Of course, only 3 squads now remain because just saw the 4th eliminated. So Alliance going to be on that north side. Danish are still within this building, but they are technically the closest to this circle. So in theory, they have to move last. But if you stay in that building too long, you could become the focus. This is always the thing with Apex Legends. When there are 3 teams left, how do you play this? Do you play for points? Do you go for second? Or are you thinking you are in a position to win this game?
Well, Hackers, it looks like they might try and play for second here. They're certainly going to try and win this fight. It's isolated enough that if they win it quickly enough, they might be able to engage. However, we do know the other team is going to be overlooking this. They're going to want to third party this and take home the win. Couple of ports going out. Alliance really want to take this fight. Now they're going to swing in on the staircase. Cat spikes it down, which will slow things down. Effect down to about 10 HP, but still alive here.
This should open things up for Annex and should be a guaranteed win for them, really. They've been able to move center zone and are just watching this unfold in front of them.
Hackis is down, so Alliance down to 2, but they've been down to 1. They've been down to 1 HP at points in this game, so don't count them out just yet. And yes, indeed, they get the reset once more. Annex Esports still holding this fence line, just waiting for the action to take place in front of them, but nobody is going down right now.
Yeah, they're waiting for some knocks, but because both teams are just backing off, it is not a guarantee for Annex just yet, because both these teams now have to take separate angles, you think, unless the drop happens here, and then it would open up for Annex.
I mean, Alliance are just trying to hug a wall at the moment. You can see that the port to the roof has made it a little bit more difficult. Effect trying to look for a stick behind this Q. Unlucky's going to find one. Effect finds another. Alliance is still healthy here. And this could be a game for the ages if Alliance can pull this one off. ALGS Esports having to fire through the cat wall. They will find one. They should be able to move in and clean these pieces up. But with the way that Alliance has been playing, they're going to have to make sure that they close out. And that is exactly what they do. ALGS Esports will take home the win here in game number 3. But Alliance, what a performance it was from them as well, forcing their way into that second place spot.
Yeah, good patience initially from ALGS. They had the height, of course, but I was worried they would have to move, and it was kind of who's going to move first out of them and Alliance. But Alliance had to move in the end, otherwise they were just going to be so easily picked off. And then I thought they were going to take the fight. Didn't take the fight. It was a difficult one to take, especially going up against Catalyst. Those spikes going down on the stairs. You're just reluctant to push up. You're pushing into nothing. But I think Alliance may have claimed second place in the end from that one. So I think they'll be happy with that. That's what you aim for when you're in one of those positions. You want to get those extra, well, 6 points is going to be potentially, if you pick up the kills of the third squad and you get the extra placement positions, you get those extra 6 on the board. So it's going to be 15 in the end for Alliance. ALGS top it with 18 thanks to the 12 placement points. A shout out to GoNext, 12 kills on the board will put them at 17. So technically they take second in that lobby.
Very impressive performance from both GoNext and Alliance for the rotates that they had to make. It was through everyone, essentially. It felt like, I mean, Alliance, if you would have taken them back 5-6 minutes, I think before that end game, they would have said, yeah, we'll take second, quite happily, because the position they were in with Hackers left on his own, very, very, very tough to try and make something work from there. But ALGS Esports, like you mentioned, they're the team who take home first place with those placement points and kills confirmed. And after 3 matches have been played, this is how things look in our series. Forbidden on top by just 2 points over Ronin, and then a little bit of a gap between UAIM, Infinite, and Alliance. Danish, GoNext, all very, very close behind them. And you have to say, after 3 games, Dan, it's very much looking at E-District in an all-to-play for situation.
Yeah, especially considering, you know, we mentioned it earlier, the POI draft, everyone heavily went into their picks onto Storm Point, so not many teams prioritized E-District whatsoever. FaZe Clan down in 20th position is going to be the biggest concern from this graphic for me. You know, they've been performing well in scrims. I think there's a lot of high hopes for this FaZe roster that maybe they can trump previous FaZe rosters, but not really turned up in the first 3 here, Rain Day.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I mean, you look at Forbidden, you look at Ronin. I mean, we're talking about, you know, kind of the teams jumping into Pro League. Now they're the ones leading the lobby. It could be a whole different conversation if you twist it one way or the other. But I love that you guys brought up Alliance too. And Mark, you're kind of like, okay, the situation that we were in, if we get second in the version of our life right now, where I'm almost dead with 1 HP and all my teammates are dead, I'll take that. And honestly, I had a little bet with myself. I'm doing a little off script moment here. I had a bet. I told my wife, I said, listen, Kelly gave me this for my daughter. Okay, you can't see it because it's green. but I said, if they win, I will actually put her in this and bring her on camera. And so they didn't win. So second place is not good enough, guys, unfortunately, but you were close. And we do have this yet again. So Mark, hopefully, you know, this little inspiration there for Alliance.
I was worried for a second that you said you were going to put that on. And then I was like, well,
well, you know, I would, but it won't fit.
Probably not a good idea if you want to be back for another week. But, you know, maybe we'll get the viewers in. It'll be a viral moment.
Yeah. Right. Guys, you know, it's halftime. And as we get into this, you know, we've had so many fun things happen. EMEA feels like it's kind of shaking things up. We also have seen an immense amount of parity in my eyes. Like the fact that we have these legend bands has given every single team an opportunity to showcase themselves. And it feels like teams that I kind of mentioned this and alluded it to Howls, the Falcons, right? Or the TSMs back in the day. These aggressive metas, they love, they dominate. But then maybe like a Newcastle Gibby meta, not so much. Yet now we don't feel like, it feels like we don't have that anymore, Dan, which is kind of so interesting heading into, you know, the fact that what does that mean for teams like Ronin's, teams like, you know, that we're focusing on Alliance, you know, in terms of that, to show up and be now leading this lobby after 3.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting moment for Apex Legends. The fact that we've got all these teams that have to try and work out, you know, how this meta is going to develop, how we can have to change our compositions as the lobby goes on. Do we follow the path or do we try and go under the radar a little bit? We've already seen that a little bit today, you know, a few Watson picks that have come in just so you can keep that controller. It's a very exciting time. I think both Mark and I, when we were leading up to this one, we were like, you know, it just feels, something feels different about this season, and it's almost that element of unknown.
Yeah, it's such a great thing. As you know, we look at the action after 3. We still have 3 more to go, but it's halftime, so we need to have a little bit of conversation here, guys. We're not bringing a guest, okay? But we are doing a little something fun and funky. Okay, Dan, I see you dancing. I see you moving. Have you seen this guy on the dance floor? He's next level. Yeah, that's just a little teaser.
Violent
because he's going so strong. I'm going to ask you first, Mark. This is our section called Hot Takes. So we want to know what our casters, what our talent have to say about Apex. Maybe a little controversial. Maybe chat you disagree. Maybe you agree. Let's start with Mark, though, because I want to hit it off, man. What is your hot take for today?
It's interesting. We were told coming into this, like, what's the one thing you think is the cardinal sin in Apex Legends? Mine is counter-calling your IGL. If you counter-call your IGL, you are the worst person. I was going to say on Earth, that might be a little bit too harsh. But you need to listen to your IGL. Even if you see your IGL is making the complete and utter wrong call and everything in your point of view, you can feed them that information, but do not counter-call them. Don't be one of those people who is like, yeah, that's cool, but like if they call zone's going here and you're like, I think zone's going there, listen to your IGL. Listen to your IGL, everybody. There's a reason you put them in charge. If you counter-call your IGL, all of a sudden, they're thinking, am I doing a good job? They're thinking, am I doing the best for my team? Every call they make moving forward might be blurred and obscured, so don't counter-call your IGL. If you do, apparently you're the worst person on Earth, according to me. So yeah, maybe I'll rethink that.
You went so hot that they had to take you down to medium after that. Dan, Mark hit a medium. What do you have? What's your hot take for today?
My hot take is playing for second place or for points when someone else is on match point, right? You do not want to give the opportunity for someone else to win the tournament just so you can get a little bit higher in some prize pool. Or maybe, let's say, I don't know, qualify for the World Championship. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Enter Force 36. You were on top of the cake building. You had a chance to make history, but instead you said, oh, we just want to qualify for the World Championships. No one remembers Enter Force 36 finishing 15th in the World Championships. Instead, they remember TSM getting absolutely screwed because you jumped off the cake building. How about next time you play for first place and keep match point rolling, keep everyone entertained, keep everyone happy. Instead, you just went for the World Championships, which, understandable. I know you really wanted to get to the World Championships, but let's be honest, we wanted to see more games. So play for first place, keep match point rolling.
Well, I mean, after that,
Dan was going to say nobody remembers Enter Force 36 having gone on a massive rant about Enter Force 36. That's
that was some hot takes, guys. Chat, what do you guys think about those? Dan did a great job kind of leveling up the spice. I mean, you know, going second's not easy. Mark obviously started off with you're the worst person of all time if you counter-call your IGL. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the hottest take possible, but you know, it is good. You know, a bad plan executed well, better than a good plan executed poorly. Listen, decide, and do it. And yeah, your heart is racing, man. The caliente. Guys, you know, you're watching on X, you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Twitch. What did you think? Let us know. We want to hear your thoughts on those hot takes. Do you have anything? Here we got Apex status saying a total of 42,355 light rounds have been picked up already in 2 games, making it the most picked ammo. Say hello to the lovely P2020, second ammo type being heavy with only 15,000 rounds. Mark, I think what this means is that the P20s are being well enjoyed by our pros. I mean, it's just really dominated so far today and just in the meta.
It certainly has, and you've seen why in those first 3 games, right? And I think if you add on the fact that the Scout is still very, very, you know, usable, very, very prevalent in the meta as well, you got 2 light guns in your inventory, and it's also with the arsenals that are spawning around the map, it's very easy to get your hands on both of those weapons. So, you know, no surprise to see that. I imagine, by the way, if you've Apex status, I like the idea that you've manually added that up while you've been watching. If so,
they've counted each round.
Yeah.
Each one, all 42,355. These are the things that we need. Chat, what else do you have to say to us? Because we have another take here. Wig said first of all, you started off. Wig said, I don't know if I can, know that is going to be. Let's read this here. The legend bands have made the most skilled pro league ever, which should be true if P20s haven't lowered the skill ceiling significantly. If we had a real gun meta, this could have been the most healthy split ever, maybe. Interesting, guys.
A little bit here, real fake James.
You know,
firstly, are you even James?
James?
Yeah, are you James? Calling you out on that one.
I mean,
and then your hot take is what Wig said.
Is what Wig said.
And then you finished with maybe.
Dan,
I mean, if we're going to have the spicy meter, somewhere in the medium, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think Wig is correct. I do think that the legend bans have made this the most skillful because you have to have a deep pool. You have to be able to play a lot of different legends, but also you have to play it smart. If you don't have that pool, then you kind of pick something that goes under the radar. Yes, the P2020s are strong. I don't think that we're going to beat around the bush there. We know it. You know it. Everyone else knows it. But you've also got to play what is available to you right now. And if you can avoid certain fights where the P2020 does not, you know, have the same kind of power, if you can keep distance in some ways, maybe there are ways to play around it. But yeah, I think this is going to be, and I still think, one of the most exciting splits that we've ever had.
Yeah, it seems certainly the case.
Just needs a little tweak. It's got the accelerator on it as well, so it's always going to have that appeal. Just a little tweak.
We had Mozams too. I mean, this has happened. I mean, Apex is just, it goes through these phases sometimes. And, you know, these guns are great. Obviously, P2020 is kind of a tough one because you can't have a kind of an okay P2020. It's either usually not usable at all and kind of like not really a weapon, or really amazing because it's been buffed to that point. So guys, I'm not sure if we'll see that slow down this week, maybe after a mid-season patch or another one coming up, but it's been a fun halftime talking with you all. Some spicy takes. And Mark, you know, I think you need some reflection on how bad people can be if they don't counter call. So I'm going to send you on break. Dan and I are going to take this one and just hopefully you come back having just thought about, you know, life a little bit more. All right, you can't hear me anymore. Yeah, he's gone. Dan, back to us. Yeah, man, that was fun. Obviously, you know, looking at it too, it is great to kind of get set into now what looks to be a very new start of this year. Storm Point, obviously we started, that's familiar, but E-District, No World's Edge, you know, as we head into these next 3 maps, we get a new look, which is great. And I think this is one of the things that, you know, P2020s are there, but everything else about this Year 5 Pro League has felt different and significant in its own way.
It really has. And, you know, one of the funny stats, by the way, you know, we saw the light ammo is the most used. Somehow, still, Imperial Hal will be pinging for light ammo because he's run out, despite the fact there's still that much on the map. E-District is where we're going to be heading. Now, I mentioned it briefly that only 2 teams actually prioritized E-District in their picks, and that was Alliance and Infinite. Alliance picked Lotus as their POI, and Infinite picked City Hall, and then next was Nemesis, who actually took 20th and 21st pick. Everyone else went for Storm Point initially. So I'm going to be looking at Alliance and Infinite as my teams to watch coming into E-District here. And here is the list of the bans so far as well, just for confirmation for you guys at home. We lost Ash to begin with, and then we lost Wraith, and then we lost Catalyst. So we've lost an Assault, a Skirmisher, and a Controller. Now we go to E-District. I think we're going to be losing another Skirmisher because this is when Alter comes into the fray.
Yeah.
It is her bread and butter.
Yeah, it feels like Alter is going to be the one that's most played now. So teams having an opportunity to use her earlier on. This might be the last one that you've got. Alliance specifically. You know, I gave them a fake kind of challenge that they didn't even know about. Almost won it though. That's how good they are. 2nd place overall, and they're landing at the top of E-District with Lotus, Nemesis all the way down at the bottom at Old Town as well. And these are some of the kind of aspects of, to me, what we need to start looking at, Dan. It's that, yes, skirmishers and Alter are important, but the overall of the passives that I think skirmishers have gotten, it was assaults the season before, now skirmishers here, whether it's Alter, whether it's Rev, whether it's Wraith, there's a huge tempo change. The fact that you have the ability to have someone on your team and just basically be moving 30% faster, that's essentially what ends up happening. And it's made Apex a much faster game, and it's also made this Pro League, you can tell, like, while we have a lot of squads staying alive till round 4, round 5, you can understand the potential impact and tempo is super adjusted here. And it's made it for a great game, not only just to play, but also it's impacted Pro League a little bit.
Oh yeah, a great watch at times as well, with the speed of which it can be, you know, quickly buzzed through by some of these legends that have had buffs, or, you know, sometimes they've had nerfs just to reduce things as well. But Alter is going to be very much prominent in this lobby. I can already see from that screen she's going to be banned in this game. I don't even need to count it. There's far too many Alter faces popping up. One of the main reasons why Alter is kind of prominent on E-District is for her rotation ability through the likes of Energy Bank and other areas. You can get through some of these thick walls that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. You'd be forced into a choke, but instead you can kind of go through them instead of over them or under them. And that is allowing a lot of rotational ability for these teams. Also, you know, we've got the new changes to Alter as well in her perks that you can kind of select whether you want to be support, for example, or recon. So you get the abilities of those support characters or recon characters as well. She's just become far more viable. And yes, she wasn't, you know, the most picked in games 1 to 3, but now we're going to see her on almost every comp.
It's always interesting, you know, when you have a legend come in that is maybe a little bit under represented early on. And, you know, Ian talked to us. This was in year 4 live at LAN. I believe this might have been in Los Angeles, and just gave us a conversation about Alter, revealing her, what she brings to the table. It took a while for her to really come into the fray, but these recent buffs do one of the hardest things you can do, which is have a character kind of come out, not really be picked, not really be as relevant as you would hope, and now suddenly become kind of the cream of the crop. And that's why I always look back to, you know, game changers and like trendsetters like Alliance Hockeys, who has played Alter beforehand. So it's going to, now that she's much more prevalent, you know, give people an advantage who have been putting the time in on a character that, you know, has a little bit of a high, you know, skill ceiling, a very high floor as well to understand and to use well.
Over there.
Yeah, I think she popped up every now and then in Pro League. You know, a few teams worked out that alongside Crypto, she could do some disgusting things. And, you know, a few teams tried that. And sadly, then she became a little too strong with what she could do. And the one thing she was good at got nerfed for a short while. But now she's back, and she is very much on our screens, as there is an early fight happening here as well. Zero Tenacity taking some early shots.
Busy with the P20, he only has one this time around, trying to get that second one. Maybe a kill, and looting that box will help. Bambino on the rush, also playing the fuse. MG clutch, holding down this angle, helps Zero Tenacity to back off a little bit. But MG clutch still knowing that he's kind of under pressure here. Bambino with the fuse. Knuckle cluster is just going to help out, but they've got to find an answer. Phoenix Kit happening for Mizzy, and they'll probably push after that, or at least figure out a way to go about it. A little bit of testing the rhythm. E-District does have some rotations that can be tough to get around, like any other map, but just the city, these high low grounds, you know, sometimes there's just really not a lot of routes to go.
Routes is what you could say.
Either way.
I mean, did you just get confused because I was English? You were like, how do I say it for them so it understands? And you said,
I'm trying to connect with you, man.
I appreciate it. It's understandable. Don't worry. Now I live here. You know, I can just. I
That's right.
Routes, right? That's how it works. By the way, I will never say routes. It doesn't make sense. I agree, though. I mean, I love E-District. I love to watch E-District. I love to play E-District. I'm so glad it is part of the ALGS ever since I worked for the first time at Champs as well. And a lot of these teams have started to learn how to manipulate the map in their favor. You know, yes, there are some routes that you take where you're going to be a little bit vulnerable, but that's when you use legends like Alter, for example, so that you can manipulate it in a way where you aren't as vulnerable. So you do have the cover. Yes, Catalyst has been banned, so you're not going to see much Dark Veils coming down to cover you instead. So who do you bring in to maybe add that? What controller legend? Do you need a controller legend? Do you need the ring consoles, or are you just going to play off survey beacons, for example?
Bit of a far cry from where we experienced Apex Legends just a few months ago. I mean, in Japan, obviously, we had so much support, control, the domination of the meta, you know, ended up looking like a lot of teams who you had patience on their side. Now you have to swap things up very, very quickly. And that's just kind of the name of the game. The online portions of the LGS as we build up into the Open, which is in May 4th, 1st through 4th, coming up in just a few months, is a lot of testing, Dan. And you know, you're seeing these pros, while scrims are a thing, really learn not only just these maps, but does it make sense to have this level of bans? Do we need to work on an Alter beforehand? Is this the first time we're playing Alter because we lost Ashe, we lost Wraith? You know, a lot of these questions are things that players are answering right now. As you can see, Synetic trying to stay alive and going down here. It's just Zane and Tyler FPS trying to pick up a little bit, and they're doing enough with that P2020. My goodness, as Tyler gets a kill and tries to keep his team alive.
Yeah, those are the kind of kills you expect from Tyler, right? A very impressive controller fragger, and now has the chance to reposition with Alter to try and re-engage in this fight and keep his team alive. It is going to be a 2 versus 2 now, unless the rest came through. And again, Tyler shredding with the P2020s. We are witnessing the power of them. Even from this kind of distance, they hit hard.
I mean, why take a scout out? I mean, why have Nemesis? B20s are not only doing close range, that's mid-range and farther. Zane, you've seen him do 1v3s. So yeah, Tyler picking up 2 kills in a row. Well, Zane's gonna have no problem picking up the 3rd. That is FaZe Clan staying alive. Gonna get Synetic back up pretty quickly as they continue the rotation out in zone.
And those are the fights that FaZe should be winning. If you look at how this team is built, and you know, yes, you've got Synetic there as the core anchor of the squad, but you look at the likes of Tyler to be able to come through and win those fights alongside Zane. Even if it is a 1 versus 2, a 1 versus 3, they should have a chance to do it. And FaZe is going to be back on their feet. And maybe E-District is going to be their opportunity to pick up some kills here, because you might have noticed when you look through the compositions of a lot of teams you've been checking in on, not so many controller legends, not many teams that have ring console. Most teams are going to be playing off survey beacon, playing off of information provided by other teams and their positions. But now on our screen, we're seeing caustic gas here, Rain Day, so we are going to see 1 controller at least in this building.
Huge. And you know, if you play this way, I mean, this is one of those things that we're going to look at, say you're the smartest person in the room or not. Like Mark said, the worst person in the room, if you counter call it. At the end of the day, I mean, I think you do know caustic's going to be let through every single time. So what does this mean for your strategy? I mean, Frick's on that crypto, continuing to have a presence on that character, not banned yet, probably not going to get banned today. Alter portal here from Trix, just potentially trying to get some vision as they're sharing this building, and not going to take it quite yet, Dan. I mean, kind of the back and forth of, do you take it, do we take it? And maybe we'll just leave that there to threaten.
Yeah, trying to get a little abduction here, trying to pull one of them through the floor and just be able to surprise them, take them down, and then have the lead for the engagement. There are 3 caustics in the lobby, by the way, counting. I asked the question, you know, who replaces Catalyst, and it does look like there's a few caustics, some Watsons here as well. But most teams that were playing Watson were playing them right from the start of today. A team like UAIM, for example, they've been able to keep the majority of their composition throughout. But now BPR, one of those caustic teams, and the team that is going to be above the squad we just saw, just need to be keeping their feet off the floor. The floor is lava, or the floor is basically a portal. There we go.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, they know what is about to happen. An attempted kidnap from Alter. An abduction, as we've started to call it here, behind the scenes as well. That's also Mark, so I'm not just going to credit him for stuff that's a hot take. I'm also going to credit him for good things. Abducted attempts here from Zane, Tyler, and Synetic. They're continuing that pressure. Knuckle cluster, but the Newcastle shield will stall any of that as they kind of look to hold this low ground. 19 squads still left in this game. Round 2 about to close. And, you know, this is kind of right on par for the course. Wow, my words today. I mean, I feel like for the course. But you know, it's right on par for the course. I don't know what it is, Dan. We start laughing and I start saying words differently. But for how we've seen, 20 squads have been alive for most of the time up until round 4.
Yeah, 3 squads here.
Yeah, not too many engagements. I think there's been enough space on the map, and with the amount of recon legends that are available, plus Alter taking the recon perk, people are aware of positions of other people, so they're kind of avoiding them at the moment until they find a spot that they can call home, as suddenly Alliance have found some victims on their way into the zone here.
Big pick from Effect as well, rocking that 30-30 Peter. Trying to keep that up. Another headshot as well. Knuckle cluster to apply the pressure. The wall will stop that for a moment. Still getting some damage though. And Newcastle backing off. Alliance walking forward, and that's a problem for anyone in their way. Drone detected here from Hockey, so just gonna med kit up and get back to health as they continue to try to push a little bit out of zone, but they've got some time to make it through. And with Effect kind of applying that pressure right there, it's gonna be easy. Team in front of them also deciding to evac and get out of there.
Not to go back to legend compositions again, but, you know, Fuse being used now as the ring console legend for a lot of these squads with the lack of catalyst. So, you know, all these changes, and what's great is the variety. I think one of my worries when legend bans came through is we were just going to see everyone move to the same composition after game 1, after game 2, after game 3, but we are not seeing that, and that really makes me happy because it does create a lot of variety and a lot of different play styles and different kind of attempts at trying to break the meta, as it were. And it makes for a lot of interesting fights as well, because there's so much different dynamics. Are you going up against a caustic barrel? Are you going up against a ballistic that's going to make your gun just blow up in your face, for example? So all these different things you have to consider and keep track of, as Danish struggling to keep track of, well, it looks like going to be FaZe on the other side of things, and FaZe trying to push it.
Zane applying the pressure like we've seen beforehand. Danish going to be able to take this high ground, force Zane down to the bottom here. He's going to have to take a zip line, maybe an altar portal to get back up. But so far, so good, as Fricks looks to have a chance to be revived in just a moment. Tyler, Zane, a little bit low. And so they're not going to push this. Also, BPR right next to this engagement. So everyone feels the presence of that third squad. Maybe both teams just realizing that it's not worth trying to continue this engagement unless we can have an advantage. Now, FaZe Clan rotating on this outside, possibly going to try to push up and maybe make the middle, you know, kind of the issue for them. And as you can see, Synetic just holding zone there, trying to be the outside of this engagement.
So funny watching how scared people are to stand close to walls or floors or roofs or anything. You don't want any of your body parts to be near them, otherwise you might be abducted. You have to be careful. Just a little toe and you might get taken away from the rest of your squad. It's a very strange dynamic to have to try and play the game with this many alters in the lobby. As FaZe Clan now looks like they are going to get pushed here, and this fight happens again.
Huge swing there as well. Optimus finds the kill on the Zane, and it kind of sets the tempo. A BPR maybe going down. Not if Kyler has anything to say to it. Takes out Synetic. FaZe Clan eliminated. BPR make the rotation and get the res thanks to the Void Nexus. One of the huge aspects of what Alter brings to the table. When you get knocked, you got a chance to just fully reset. What a character she is, and clearly controlling the pacing of this lobby.
Optimus Fish 20, it does it again. Remember the name, because you're going to be hearing it a lot throughout EMEA Pro League, and hopefully, of course, the ALGS Open as well, coming up in a few weeks. Now, Alliance are still alive, and they have been able to find themselves within the zone here, Rain Day. They're just on the western side. I think it's Infinite who are going to be next to them. And they are having a couple of pop shots towards them as well. But Alliance have done very well to kind of navigate the map in a way that they've put themselves here on this western side, and actually in a pretty good position to get to the final circle, which is pulling slightly north as UAIM get eliminated in 18th.
Unlucky on the Newcastle, a character that we've seen a lot in this lobby as well, but far cry from what we saw dominating the meta over the last few months, heading into our championship. And G-Dolphin as well on Atlas. We've seen what he can do earlier on the Bangalore this time around as well. Not really a lot of Bangalores, maybe the only Bangalore in this lobby, at least that we've seen. And using those smokes, hopefully here. But goes down right away, and so this is going to be tough for Atlas to make it out of this.
Yeah, you're right. We've not seen... We saw a lot of Bangalore on Storm Point, of course, Game 2, when we saw the initial bans coming through for Ash, but yeah, Bangalore's not as much of a popular pick on E-District, mainly because that role is kind of taken by Alter. But GoNext using the van as best they can on the southeast side. They've got Danish down towards their south, but above them is Zero Tenacity, and they are just surrounded by a ring of fire. Johnny Cash, eat your heart out. They're going to have to try and push out here, otherwise they might just get threatened by all these squads nearby.
Drones up on top, fire down below. You're not in a good spot being caught in the middle of those two things. GoNext trying to just survive. And so far, so good. Staying alive and stabilizing, kinda. Henchman and Atinum pushing just a little bit with P20. Zero Tenacity here also trying to hold off. Henchman finds an early kill. GoNext getting the revive here with the Newcastle, trying to just get numbers back in their advantage, but kind of realizes this is something they cannot finish off. Jay Hanzo and Ronin pushing down. They should clean up kind of here with the P20s, or at least have quelled this and find 2 out of the 3 kills of that team, keeping their spot.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but you know, Ronin have been one of the more impressive sides that we've seen today. And I think that's very exciting for coming into Pro League as well. For some of these teams that just are able to show up. And again, it might be down to how good they are at changing their compositions. You've got a pathfinder for them, which we've not seen so far today. So everyone experimenting with something a little bit different. But right now, they have to try and navigate the map from this southeast side and get further north. The pathfinder may help with that and could be something that will play a part in this next circle, as Zero Tenacity are also moving from the same position. They're going to be slightly ahead of Ronin.
Well, kind of that's what I, mean with E District, as huge shots here from the G7 Scout. I know the P20 is often the choice from any range, but you can see that Scout, attack speed buff, last few months made a difference. Pros have it in their hands now. And a huge mother load there from Fuse as Zero Tenacity continue to push on. Bambino's going to go down. Kiner and Mizzy, though, to clean up the pieces, and they will. Annex Esports will fall. And they're still trying to make it into this building as there's a little bit of fire from the outside. Forbidden goes down, the team they were fighting, and now a chance to try to keep pushing.
And now it's about to be Portal Mania as well. It's just about trying to stay alive. Do you go up? Do you go down? Do you go left? Do you go right? All you have to do is try and avoid this gunfire, as it looks like Stay Healthy will not be staying healthy, and it's going to be the last player remaining. Does get eliminated. 7 squads now remain. Just like that, we lost 3 teams as round 5 closed, and we begin round 6. Danish also go down. Na'Vi are still alive at the moment. You can see they're going to try and escape around the edge. They are taking a lot of zone damage, though.
Great spot for Na'Vi. Gaimin Gladiators as well, fighting against Cat. Find the kill there. So it's now just 5 squads remaining here as we head into round 6. Unbelievable patience. And you can see Gaimin Gladiators in a pretty good spot, all isolated by themselves on the southern side. ExoClan staying alive in that building, and also sharing a little bit with Alliance on the left-hand side. And Infinite, Natus, Vincere, again, also isolated on their side as well, Dan.
Yeah, Gaimin Gladiators and Na'Vi should be the lead contenders of winning this game, just with the amount of space they currently command. But, that can all change very quickly. It's going to be really who survives out of ExoClan, Alliance, and Infinite, and how they actually traverse the map to the point. You've got the portals to get out of the building, but then you've also got the Newcastle to maybe build a little bit of a base here for Alliance, and they're actually starting to march towards GG, which could ruin GG's plans.
Alliance knows they've got to make a play and do something. Goes through the portal. Hockeys with the P20s. No doubt about it. Gets the first train, and hopefully Effect gets the second, and maybe even the third. He goes down. It's up to Unlucky now. Trying to Newcastle wall. He's going to try to fight out of this. He will, and he gets the kill.
Beautiful from Unlucky. Res after res, make your opponent just slightly doubt what they have to do, and then you whip out those P2020s. And now Alliance going to be back up, and it looks like maybe they avoid the gunfire. Na'Vi are looking towards them, but Alliance now have to worry about Exo, who are still close to them, Infinite, who are still alive in that building as well. But this is all leading up to a Na'Vi win, you'd feel, as they have so much space, so much coverage of this map.
Alliance shouldn't win. There's no reason that they should win this game. They shouldn't have even won that fight, but somehow they have. And that just seems to be the story of Alliance. Maybe their luck is running out. Na'Vi in a great position here, our winners of our Year 4 championship in Sapporo just a few months ago under the banner of GoNext. Now representing Na'Vi. Can they get a dub? Heading into game number 1 on E District. We'll see here as ExoClan falls. And it's just Arctic to remain.
Yeah, Na'Vi now, it should just be cleanup crew. Only 1 squad left. However, they are on the low ground here. This is not as easy as it first looked. And there is a chance for Infinite, albeit a slim one. It's not going to happen. Na'Vi prove that it was not just a one-hit wonder. They are going to make a full-on album as they are back with a bang here in Year 5.
You gotta love it. Natus, Vincere find a way to get the job done. Bangalore, Crypto, Ballistic. Wow. Unbelievable. And thank you for kind of calling that out as well. I mean, Natus, Vincere, they absolutely have pressure on them to keep performing, Dan. And if they do not, people are going to start to say, well, maybe that was a fluke. It's clearly not. This is a team to be dealt with, to be treated with respect. And obviously, they show it there in game number 4.
We've always said consistency is one of the hardest things to do in a battle royale in Apex Legends, and we have seen teams succeed. I mean, for a while throughout Apex, we only had 2 teams who really could lift any trophies, but that has started to change. Other teams starting to get just as good and have their moment. But is it just a temporary moment in the spotlight, or can Na'Vi prove that it wasn't just a fluke, as some may have said? They deserved every moment in that spotlight, and now they are proving that they are back with a bang here. 23 points in game number 4, which is going to send them quite far up those leaderboards. Even though they've been a little bit quiet here and there, they now find themselves at the number 1 spot. That's what one big game can do for you. Remember, they started today with a top 3 after almost being eliminated in 20th position, and now they find themselves number 1, 38 points.
Unbelievable. You know, you look at Ronin and Infinite following behind as well, our 2 dark horses out of the 3. Cat in 18th place, maybe where you would expect them, but Ronin and Infinite, you would not expect those to be the top 3 alongside Natus, Vincere. PSQ showing that they know exactly what they need to do to come here in Pro League and dominate. We're going to go on a quick break. We'll be right back with our final 2 games of the series.
100 Thieves look like a force to be reckoned with, including Imperial Hal and Zero's former teammates Verhulst and Jen Burton teaming up for ALGS Year 5. They are joined by Phony, who is back competing in America with a big point to prove his own. On paper, this looks to be a truly fearsome team. There is a huge amount of LAN experience, with almost every ALGS LAN in history won by at least one of the new 100 Thieves roster. Phony sits in a very exclusive club of IGLs with a LAN win under his belt and is now backed up by some of the game's best shooters. If this roster can hit the ground running, they could easily run away with the Pro League if left unchecked. One of the teams looking to stop 100 Thieves is NRG, who can easily claim the super team tag for themselves. Guild and its Timmy are reunited, having last played together over at Moist Esports. Rounding out the roster is Yanya, who brings some pure aggression to this team. Keep your eye on this roster. Its Timmy expressed his desire over the last few months to really step up into the IGL role. And with Guild and Yanya in tow, he has his best chance yet to prove that he can guide a team to success on his own. With his new NRG teammates, Guild will have ambitions of better results in Year 5 after support. NRG's comeback story starts on April 6th when Pro League returns for Year 5. Now for VDR. Reps departing TSM was truly the end of an Apex era, but a brand new one begins for the multi-LAN winning Apex superstar. He will finally be stepping into the IGL role, a mantle that many fans have wanted to see him take up over the years. This split will be a fresh start for Reps in more ways than one. Joining Reps on his new journey are Deeds and Vaxlon. Both players have found strong success over the last few years. Vaxlon was part of the Furia team that was one of the Year 4 surprise packages, as well as having a great showing across Year 3 with 100 Thieves. Deeds will be best known for his efforts on the Tripods roster as they work their way from Challenger Circuit to Tier 1 competition. All 3 players are terrifying to face at their best, and all have their own points to prove. If this roster can get going, they might really shake things up at the top of the Americas region.
Welcome back, everybody. 2 more games to go, and I'll tell you what, that break has refreshed me, Dan. I'm ready to get into these 2 games. Na'Vi with the big win, the world champs coming through with a performance that we would expect at this point of a team who can call themselves world champions.
That's 7, just for anyone who is keeping track, as Mark asked during game 1 how many times he's going to say world champs today. 7 it is, I think, if I'm counting correctly.
Okay, my licks in.
But honestly, you've got even more reason to say it after a performance like that, right? They did so well at taking down teams whenever they were under a little bit of fire, but then towards the end, it was just about the amount of space they were able to command. I mean, it often is when it comes down to just 3 squads, like who has the most space, who has the most coverage. Looked a little bit worrying when they were down on the low ground, and I was suddenly thinking, wait, if you can't get up here, this could be a struggle, could allow the other team, it was infinite, to reset. At last, they were able to climb up, they were able to sort it, and everything went well. But they did take down Alliance in 4th. By the way, Alliance coming 4th was pretty nuts in that game. They did really well to survive, which seems to be the theme of today for Alliance, is somehow, some way, surviving moments that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like the cockroach approach. That was very difficult to say, and I got away with it. But they do manage to survive, right? And Battle Royale, a lot of the time, is just about surviving, getting yourself into that position to contribute towards the end game. This is the final moment, of course, that we just saw from that Na'Vi win. But Alliance staying in touching distance. This is what we were talking about after game number 3, right? As long as you can stay within touching distance to that first place, you can keep yourself in the conversation. When you get to these final 2 games, that's when everybody's kind of found their rhythm. The nerves have gone a little bit, and everyone starts to have an opportunity to convert on what has been a pretty solid start into finishing in a very, very good position.
Yeah, and I think that just the way Alliance are surviving and winning the fights when their backs are against the wall is impressive. And I think that's something that Alliance have always done very well. And when this team was built, you know, when we lost UAIM and wondering who was going to come in, Unlucky comes in for Alliance, and you saw the value of Unlucky just in that game as well. The ability to win a 1 versus X situation when Effect is down. And that's, I mean, Hackers must be in dreamland, right? Because Hackers goes down and he's like, well, you know, it's fine, because either Effect or Unlucky could take out this entire lobby on their own. And that's what makes Alliance so terrifying.
Let's take a look at the map schedule, as Alliance do look terrifying. We've got 2 more to go here. If you're just joining us, of course, you missed out on Storm Point, but you've got 2 more E-District to come. And now we're going to see Alter banned, Dan, which, again, changes the dynamic of this map completely. It changes the dynamic of how these compositions are going to work. We mentioned, and you and Rain were talking quite rightly about how, I think out of all Legends and map combinations, Alter probably has her biggest impact on E-District, but we're only going to see it for 1 map here. So who's going to be stepping into that role is a very, very interesting question now.
Yeah, who is going to be banned next is always going to be the next question that I start to ask myself. But at the same time, you know, you have to fill those roles for rotation. We saw Bangalore was used a lot when Ash initially got banned, but in E-District, there wasn't as much Bang. Will we see more Bang come into the fray here? Will we see a few more teams start to hit more recon characters, for example? Because losing Alter means you lose the ability to get the recon through her perks. Will we see more Cryptos pop up? A few more Ballistics, maybe? I know that Ballistic and kind of Crypto at a 50-50 with the ban sometimes in Game 5 during scrims. So remember, this is going to be the last time a Legend gets banned here in Game 5. And then for Match 6, that will be the pool open and ready.
Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what Legend steps up and if they're going to have an influence on how this match number 5's going. One thing that is very exciting about where we find ourselves in this series is there's no real discernible difference in points. There is no team who is kind of dominating the leaderboards. Everybody is still within touching distance of each other, which means not only do we not know who's going to win today still with 2 games to go, but we don't know even what the leaderboards are going to look like towards that top 10. So let's start our journey off here in map number 5 with Na'Vi, the winners of our previous game.
I think what was interesting about that previous game as well is there was so many teams who didn't have ring console information that they were just going off of the survey beacon through recon characters or through Alter, that they then had to try and traverse the map a little bit differently. We saw less teams committing to buildings early on and more teams just kind of skirting around the map, which created some interesting 3v3 scenarios. And we might see that again. I don't know, maybe people will lean towards Fuse a little bit more. You can see Na'Vi's comp is going to be, again, Ballistic, Bang, and it is going to be Crypto. So you've got the 2 assault characters available to you. I mean, that is not fun to go up against. I will say I hate playing against Ballistic, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. A very difficult Legend to try and take in a 1v1 when he hits you.
Shout out to the first picturesque cinematic view of Chicken Beak, by the way. I feel like that would slap Chicken Beak.
Oh,
I feel like they'd have like a
great sauces.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Like a very unique sauce that people would travel miles around for.
All right, we get our first look while I think about the unique sources.
So Chicken Beak, everybody.
We say our first lifeline of the day, but it's not going to be the ban. Pathfinder's featuring there as well. A lot of Newcastle. We do often see Newcastle banned around Game 5, and I think I'm counting about 15 off the top of my head. So maybe Newcastle's going to be banned going into Match 6. I'll get confirmation a little bit later. A few more Caustics still. Yep, Caustic's going to be a pick for the teams that had them previously as well. you want a building heavy finish, I think, if you're one of these Caustic teams, and maybe you'll get it as we're going to be looking to head towards the east side of the map here.
Yeah, I mean, for FaZe, this is a golden opportunity, right? You're looking at Heights. They've got ring console over at Heights. With obviously the Heights itself, you have some really, really strong elevated positions to play, not only for KP, but also towards the end game as well. A couple of just very interesting to kind of highlight here as well. You know, FaZe have ring console. You also have Stadium that had ring console. That's going to be Cat. UAIM had ring console as well. So everybody who's kind of very, very close to where this zone looks like it's going to be pulling already have ring console information. So everyone who's arriving later isn't going to be second guessing where this zone is going to be going, because everything's going to be clear until they get towards Heights. So if you have ring console and you're there early, it's going to be a really good opportunity for you to convert some points here. And FaZe, who are down in 20th with just 6 points after 4 games, need to convert this kind of game into one where their final standings at the end of the day look a lot better.
Interestingly as well, the 3 teams you pointed out who had ring console do have the ability to hit ring console as long as they get their fuse up to blue so that you can pick and he can scan the ring console, because there are some teams who only have the survey beacons, for example. You can see at the top the legends are going to start to tick through about the pick rates as well of who is going to be selected. Newcastle is going to be the ban, as I previously thought, because there's just so much Newcastle, and maybe he can help out with the rest of the teams here coming into this next one. But yeah, those teams do have ring console, so they can get into this position over towards Heights, and they can start to now think about how they want to navigate these final circles.
I wonder if we're going to see a scrap between Cat and Cats. Cybercats versus Cat. I would back, like, on paper, a Cybercat to beat a Cat. Thoughts, Dan, as my analyst?
You would back a Cybercat to beat a Cat?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so, because if it's scientifically engineered to be superior than a normal cat, I would like to think it would be more successful in any sort of engagement or scrap, depending on what you are saying they're going to be doing. Are they going to be fighting? Are they going to be playing the piano? I don't really know.
It's really good from you as my analyst to just agree with what I say and make it sound like it makes sense. Thank you very much. BPR now playing a little cubby here. Hotel Colbert. Great place to stay, by the way, if you are looking for a little vacation on E District. It's going to get the Newcastle wall down, and this is going to be an interesting game when you look at Newcastle pick rate, right? It's going to be very, very high in this game, and when you look back on E District at champs in Japan, Newcastle was such a big contributing factor to why we had so many active end games with so many teams still alive. So I feel like we're going to have one of those end games as well, where we're going to have a lot of teams stacked up, a lot of corners being played with the castle wall down, and we GoNext, who in 6th place at the moment, in a very, very good spot. And it's interesting, actually, that I want to talk a little bit about Na'Vi, just while we have this little bit of lull in play and everyone's making their rotations, because a few disrespectful comments, I would say, after their win in Japan from a few players in the scene. And I feel like coming out in week number 1 with a new meta, with the legend bans and proving yourself, I feel like they've got a chip on their shoulder, and there's nothing worse to do as a player who is going up against a team who just won a championship than to give them a reason to knuckle down and try and prove you wrong.
Yeah, I think, you know, as commentators, as analysts of this game, you want to see consistency and you want to see success replicated. So it is good that it hasn't just been a one-off for this team, and they are showing up here today. And as you said, answer all those critics in the best way possible. But you want to go one better. You want to be number 1. You want to finish 1st place today, and they have the opportunity. They lead right now in match 5, but they still have work to do, because you saw how tight it was. You can very much be caught up here, and you might drop down somewhere in that top 10 and not necessarily be able to answer those critics as successfully. Annex Esports have found themselves in a building on this eastern side at the moment, as really have the majority of the lobby. We have about 4 teams that aren't within this circle, 1 team extra who are on the circle but are not on the eastern side. Everyone else is within the dizzy heights of Heights.
This is going to be a very interesting endgame as well. And I think for teams who are already here, a little bit more predictable from what we saw in the previous game, just to the fact that there is no altar to have to worry about. Nobody's going to be porting up to the top of your building through the side of the walls, anything like that. It's just more keeping your LOS denied, making sure you're taking good angles, making sure that your Newcastle position is going to be good for that end game. It's a little bit more traditional in the sense of how we see these end games with these stacked buildings, but I think it's going to be a slow burner here, Dan. A lot of teams, like you mentioned, already stacked up in Heights. It's only Alliance, Zero, Tenacity, Ronin, GG, and Danish who are not within this zone already. And not just within the zone, but like deep, deep within the zone.
Yeah, we might see a couple of fights happening on the outskirts. For example, Gaimin Gladiators are currently chasing Danish and looking to see if they can pick up some KP and send themselves further up these leaderboards. But it doesn't look like Danish want to play that game. They are very much looking to rotate instead. Don't want to be fighting whatsoever. Maybe Ronin would have third-partied if it had have happened. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be a slow burner. A lot of teams within buildings. And what did I say? You know, those teams that do have a caustic, for example, they wanted a final circle that resides in buildings so that they can play caustic to his best ability. And maybe they have an opportunity to really affect this endgame.
Well, GG up to purples, having hit that little Evo harvester in front of them. ALGS going to be popped here as well on the ballistic to make sure that they can get that back as soon as possible, as they just used it to make sure that they could travel from point A to point B without taking too much damage. Obviously, probably a little bit aware of Danish's position as well. Elsewhere, this is your map overhead. This is what we were talking about. Look at how stacked it is in heights at the moment. Every single team pretty much already there. It's only the teams that we mentioned previously who aren't there at the moment. And you got to wonder how tough it's going to be to get into this zone. I mean, you're looking across a couple of the teams. I mean, Z10, they've got a Valkyrie, which might be something which will be influential towards the end game a little bit, but they're already, I mean, they're over by Electro Dam, so they might be looking to play this one a little bit slower, collect as much Evo as possible, maybe even play for, you know, a mythic bin if something pops up on their side of zone, and then Valcol in a little bit later once some teams start to fight.
Although, I think because it's heights, you know, you Valcol in and you're at the same level as a lot of these teams that are on the top of these buildings, and you might be easy pickings. It is not going to be up in the sky and trying to pick them out. Instead, you might be eye level with them. Now, GG are going to be taking a little bit of an engagement here against Danish on their rotation through. Legion are also in the area, as well as Ronin closing in. A lot of these edge teams fighting right now.
Yeah, it's going to be Danish, though, who are going to be slowed down by that castle wall that went down. However, GG have expelled that ultimate now from the Newcastle, which means they won't have it available unless a couple more ALGS are in the backpacks. Looks like a little change of plan from these teams. And this is interesting, right? You look at Stadium, you think if Ulta's here, it shapes very differently because you can port through these walls, you can make a rotation a little bit more comfortably, but without Ulta in the composition, now it is all about, just like I mentioned previously, traditionally working your way through these chokes, and teams can hold you out.
Yeah, it can be quite frustrating if you do get held out as well, but perhaps you've got the ability maybe just to get aggressive on them depending on what composition you're going to be running. Legion Gaming are going to be the furthest ahead of those teams now, though. They can start working their way into zone and avoid all of that commotion that was happening just behind them. Now teams are starting to fly in. Everyone trying to worm their way through. This is going to be Danish that we're currently watching, and they should be able to get ahead of Legion here. This is a race for the choke, and I think they might have beaten them.
Yeah, Danish will just about get there first, and now they're going to be able to hold them out because that zone is going to be closing, and even though it won't be something that's too much of a worry about, like you mentioned, they are more than aware of their position, and they may be looking to morph themselves into a small rodent-like animal. Not rodent-like, actual rodent, possibly. Did you say that because there's a pig graffiti on the wall there?
I did, yeah. God, that's where my brain went.
Yeah.
By the way, I think Legion know they're there. I'm going to be honest. I'm just looking at the map overhead, and there's just one player from Legion's arrow staring right at where Danish are. So I'm not sure Danish are as inconspicuous as they think they may be, as now the zone is going to be closing. Oh, we pull further north. Again, great news for Na'Vi, who've already found themselves on that northeast side. Alliance are up there as well. FaZe Clan, who started here, are going to be on a building that's safe, but all those teams on the southern side, Atlas, GoNext, Forbidden, Cat, Nemesis, UAIM, all have to move. Now, remember, there are zip lines you can use to traverse from one building to another, but that makes you very vulnerable. So are you going to go down low and try and scurry like a rodent-like animal? Like Mark mentioned?
I think it's just rodent, isn't it?
Just
really,
rodent.
just like a rodent. Yeah. It's good that we're here to correct each other, make sure that we're on the straight and narrow. You know how difficult it is for me sometimes to hold in the things I want to say.
Oh yeah.
But here we are. Like you mentioned, we are pulling towards the north, and my eyes are kind of trained towards FaZe at the moment. I mentioned that, you know, landing over at heights, getting ring console, now seeing the zone come to them, and of course they're going to be able to potentially hit the ring console again, which is going to give them even more zone information and good news, essentially. Exo Clan, they've got to work their way in, though. They're on the outside of zone. They've just seen where it's going to be going, and 30 seconds is enough time for them to be safe until the next zone and formulate a plan, but it's a really tough rotate. I mean, E-District is always a tough rotate if you're there late, but you're kind of hoping that some action's going to take place in front of you where an opportunity presents itself, and finally we're going to see Danish versus GG.
Does happen. Danish maybe didn't get the team they were expecting to see and expecting to get, but they do find an unexpected team in GG. Lufka's going to be the last remaining player, but we are going to see a res come up, Lights back on his feet, and GG survive, taking down Danish. But now this is when Legion can say, well, we knew that was going to happen, and they get the last laugh as GG are eliminated.
Yeah, it was a really good play from Lofko initially. He drags the player back on the Newcastle to try and get that res. GoNext, though, they're here as well on Legion Gaming. They're going to find that there's a smelly man in front of them. Zero Tenacity just been eliminated in the meantime as the caustic goal goes down. GG just fell, and GoNext might be looking to add some victims to their kill tally as well.
Yeah, henchman on that caustic. Just trying to get as smelly as possible, as you mentioned. Legion back up to a full 3. Nade's going to hurt quite a lot, and now the push comes through.
Wait a minute. Some armor swaps here, and all of a sudden this one's turning on his head, and Legion Gaming will eliminate GoNext. That did not look like it was going to happen. But a few shield swaps being available on the floor for them from that previous fight we just saw keeps them in the fight. And even though they've lost the Newcastle, they should maybe be able to collect that banner using the crypto drone and then look to get a res. But losing the Newcastle in that fight, probably the one legend you don't want to, knowing how this endgame could potentially go.
Should be able to get them back up, though. They've got enough space on this south side where they should be able to avoid anyone else. You can see that beacon's just gone down on the southern tip. Excuse me. So Legion are going to be back up to a 4-3. And now the zone is going to be shifting further northwest. So you mentioned FaZe Clan, you know, they had the ring console, they had the info, but they probably looked at it and said, well, that doesn't really help us much because how do we get there? As ExoClan now throwing some nades in here and they are taking this fight.
Yeah, Dragon Force fans get excited. Through the fire and the flames, it looks like ExoClan might be exploding and they are eliminated. A little bit too aggressive there. A very good hold, but now BPR have got to refocus on resetting because there is another team who might be looking at this to take advantage of the damage that was done. But that was a, we'll call it a full send, an unsuccessful full send coming in from ExoClan. And it looks like they will be able to reset.
I appreciate the full send. Sometimes when you are in particularly this position in the open streets, you have to take that fight because otherwise you're just going to be peppered from the team that's within the building. You don't know what's around the next corner. You know, there could be a rodent, so you have to be careful. And sadly, they're unable to win their fight.
It's a tough one, though. EXO obviously don't know where this zone is pulling next, right? But they were kind of isolating. The zone was pulling back to them. Do they need to take that fight? Are they trying to take away a priority position? It just seemed like an all or nothing play. And when there's so many squads still alive, it's one of those risk rewards, right? If it comes off, it looks great. If it doesn't, 0 points.
Yeah, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles with Apex, though, is you take those risks. Now, Legion Gaming, will they take this fight? P2020's in hand. Legion Gaming have done so well so far, but I mean now, surely you can do it one more time. No, you cannot. Legion Gaming go down. 14 squads now left.
Yeah, Forbidden got to be worried, though, because here comes cybercats, and we are going to see Cat also involved in the fight as well. FaZe Clan have got a Kraber. Forbidden eliminated. 13 squads now remaining. FaZe will be safe for this next zone. Zenetic can also hit the man scan here, so he can get the lay of the land. Even though they're going to see this zone pull away from them, the fact that they've got a Kraber in their hands and they can also hit this survey beacon is going to allow them to see what spaces are available. But what they got as far as rotation is concerned, do they manage to find an evac or something that they can hit a little bit later on from the heights? Some interesting decisions to have to be made here by FaZe.
Yeah, with their composition, they lack the ability to traverse the map in a way that a Pathfinder would or Valkyrie would, for example, as now UAIM are going to be just below. FaZe Clan will hear all this commotion.
Gentlemen.
And there's just so many teams, you just like through the glass, you can almost just touch palms with each other as you all say and accept the same fate of we have to move now. Can we do it together or do we have to take this fight?
Well, Lions are taking a fight, and it's going to be a third party now coming in. It's going to be Hackis who's left on his own. He tries to fire out the knuckle clusters. He gets some good damage in. He might be able to get a KP here, and it will be ALGS Esports who are eliminated. So Hackis gets some more KP on the board here for Alliance, survives. And is this going to be a very similar story to what we saw in previous games from Alliance, where it looks like everything is said and done? One of them clutches, and they can reset.
The res is coming up, and it looks like you're going to get the chance. Na'Vi didn't hear it. Na'Vi didn't push it. And Alliance I mean, the Newcastle now can get the res back up to a full 3 yet again. And Hackett says, well, now we can start the fight against Na'Vi.
Knuckle Cluster, look at the damage that's coming out. Effect, unfortunately, has gone down, but here comes Hackett once more, but the flank finally comes in. Unlucky will find one. He's left on his own. He tries to res. Not going to happen this time. Alliance will be eliminated. It looks like Na'Vi might be pretty close to being next, although there's only one player for them to deal with, and Xhaka will do that. So Na'Vi will come out of this building as the winners of that scrap, but they did lose one on their way to doing it. Stay Healthy also eliminated. Now we're down to just 7.
He was snapped away quicker than half the population by Thanos. He very much got deleted there. Now UAIM, they're going to be moving in on the south, but they still have to go a bit further. This building is not safe, but the Kraber might help out. Na'Vi eliminated. UAIM now starting to push up.
I mean, what a shot. That's just a blind shot from Max Strafey, and he connects with multiple players. Now he flies in as well, and alongside his teammates, cybercats will find out that they have a Kraber, quite simply.
UAIM, oh, they've very much got their back to the wall now, and there's a team round the corner. Infinite are trying to hit them from the other side, but they do have the chance to reset because of Newcastle. But remember, Newcastle gets banned this game. We won't see him in match 6, so don't get used to this playstyle.
Big opportunity for UAIM if they can reset here to get good points on the board, to force them towards maybe one of those first place finishes that they're so desperate for. Max Strafey going to be last alive though. He does have this Kraber still. Doesn't connect this time around. Going to have to play around knockdowns. There's going to be a shield swap available for him as well. Syringing for the meantime. The knockdown has been taken down, and finally UAIM will fall. 4 squads now remain.
4 squads left and a chance to try and put up some big points here for a couple of these squads. Infinite have moved up into the top 3 in the leaderboard as well. And actually, they hold one of the few buildings that are left to hold here. So they are going to be able to stay alive. Ronin are going to be on the western side, and then BPR below them. And we see a rampart for Infinite as well. So again, some of that fake cover is going to be able to be deployed. And we might see more rampart going into match 6, but we'll wait and talk about that a little bit later.
The BPR going to have to move very, very soon. Zone is closing behind them. My boy, Optimus Fish, the greatest of the cyborg fish, looking to move forward with his team.
Cyborg?
Don't question facts.
All right. Well, a lot of these teams now that are left are just trying to find as much space as possible to avoid one another, because you don't want to be the first team to engage, as Ronin have lost 1.
Ronin do lose 1, but it's going to be exchanged, and Nemesis will now fall as well. So we're into our top 3, and they will be able to get the res. MG Clutch with that grapple on the Pathfinder, by the way. Now I want them to win. Was able to get close enough to his teammates and the Newcastle of Jay Hanzo to get back to his feet. So Ronin trying to fire through knockdowns here, trying to hit knuckle clusters, trying to do what they can to command space. They're going to have to go up to this high ground at some point, but it might leave them a little bit exposed.
Very exposed, actually, is now Ronin down to just the 1, but a chance maybe to get the res if you can avoid the gunfire. If suddenly look elsewhere, the mother load now comes down, and the reposition done so much damage to open it up to Infinite as they get that win. I said they were up into the top 3, but now they put even more points on the board.
This is going to be quite the leaderboard to look at after this game is done, with just 1 game remaining. Woo, it's Infinite who come out with a win here in game number 5 on E-District, and you're looking at those final moments, Dan. I've got to say, playing for second in that situation, recognizing you've got a 1v1 you can take. If you can win that, not only is it KP, like I say, extra placement points on the board, it's good decisions all around.
And sometimes it's just a decision that's made in that moment, right? It's fight or flight, and you might be the last player, and the consideration is not how do I win this game, it's how do I pick up as much points as possible? Can I take someone down with me? Infinite put up 19 points. Ronin put up 18 points. These boys don't even have a logo, yet they are 1 and 2 in this game. BPR in 3rd. That's an interesting logo. Nemesis finally, maybe with an official logo coming through, and UAIM in 5th place. But big points from Infinite and Ronin.
Yeah, really, really impressive from them. Good KP alongside the placement points, like you say. Looking elsewhere, a little bit scarce. It's a bit top-heavy for those 2 teams when it comes to points. Newcastle going to be the next one banned, legend-wise, like you mentioned. And this is what it looks like going into our final game of the day. It is 1 point separating Infinite and Ronin at the top of our leaderboards. Na'Vi chasing them down just under 10 points, 9 points behind.
You know, there's a lot of talk at the start of the show. We focused on FaZe Clan. I spoke about cybercats. We spoke about Alliance, who are still in the conversation. Na'Vi, of course, but Infinite and Ronin. I mean, Ronin was one of the teams that Rain Day had pointed out at the start of this show, but 55 and 54, they lead the charge and going to be the most likely to win in this series. But there is still a chance, of course, for the likes of Na'Vi, about 10 points off. And if they can maybe take down some of those teams early, it could be an interesting one. But match 6 is going to arguably be the most interesting of today, because now we will have our 5th legend ban, no Newcastle, and we saw how important Newcastle was for so many of those teams throughout that game. Where doth you go now?
Where doth you go now? That's what Dan Gaskin asked, and we'll find out after this break. No Alter, no Newcastle, 1 map remaining. We're heading back to E-District.
We are all very familiar with the damage that Obli, Sangjun, and Korompu can do together in Apex Legends. They won the Split 1 playoffs in Los Angeles and looked unstoppable across that tournament. Tougher times followed, but after all, absence does make the heart grow fonder. They are now reunited to try and rekindle the magic that helped them become the first APAC North LAN champions. Write them off at your peril. The ALGS champs being held in Japan didn't have the dream ending that Fnatic hoped for, and there have been changes in the off-season ahead of Year 5. Replacing Melstera and Leica is former Reject Winity player Colonel Garcia and Meteor's Libel Ace. On paper, both of these players lack major LAN experience, both having just 1 appearance each. However, under the guidance of Fnatic and new coach Shuhei Yamato, there is huge room for growth across Year 5, as he looks to build upon a team that has a great record of showing up when it matters. Colonel Garcia finished 2nd in Year 4's Split 2, and Libel Ace took 2nd in both the LCQ and the APAC North BLGS finals. UKF has won the last 4 Pro League splits back-to-back. Yeah, really. And will have had the pick of almost any teammates he wants. While it would be nearly impossible to find teammates with that level of consistency, it does seem a slight risk to team with 2 players who, despite stepping up when it matters, have not yet found consistent success at the highest level. NoiseFox is another team with a new look for Year 5, with Arufa and former Fnatic player Leica joining Satsuki ahead of the Pro League's return. This is a reunion for Satsuki and Leica, with both players teaming together on Fnatic last year as well as on North Eption back in Year 3. They performed pretty well in their time together, finishing a very respectable 6th in Mannheim, 3rd in LA, as well as winning both Year 4 Pro League splits. Now playing with Arufa, they will hope to utilize his aggression and take advantage of the power in Skirmish Legends at the moment. He has a good Pro League record of his own, finishing top 5 in both splits. With so many teams adjusting to each other, that pre-existing chemistry between Leica and Satsuki could be a huge helping hand for NoiseFox to get off to a fast start in APAC North.
Apex fans, we are back and we got 1 more game to go here on E-Districts. 1 more game of the series to decide who's going to be your first winner of week 1 in the EMEA Pro League. Dan Gaskin and myself on set going to take you through it, and it's a very interesting look at E-District with Alter and Newcastle banned, who are 2 legends that you probably think would be up there if you got to choose who you wanted to play in your composition.
Yeah, I think that we're now going to be looking towards people changing things over. We're going to see a lot more ballistic crypto coming into it as well. I mean, it doesn't really matter who is the most played here, but for science and to think about match point in the future, it is always interesting to see what is going to be the majority played. As we look back at the final circle of match 5, it was a little bit hectic. There was teams just trying to get as much space as possible, avoid being the first team to take gunfire. But BPR, they did so much damage to the team that were up top, but it was just playing into the hands of Infinite. They saw what was happening unfolding, and it was just a matter of finishing things off when it arrived. It looked very easy, actually, from that POV for Infinite, but they put themselves now in the top 2. It's going to be Infinite and Ronin as the favorites to take it here in match 6.
Yeah, really good play from Hoodie as well, just to isolate that 1v1, to make sure they secured 2nd place as well as that extra point. That could be the difference maker. We saw how tight it is at the top of the leaderboards in the overall standings, and you might look back on a moment like that when the games are done here today as the one that gave you the difference between 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place. Who knows? We'll have to see how this one plays out, but it's always fun for me to as well. You know, just looking at different things here, looking at ballistic. having that rampage as the sling weapon as well. It's such a thing you have to be worried about when you go into a fight now, knowing that if you see a ballistic, it's more than likely they're going to have that charged up rampage in the sling. It just, again, adds another dynamic to a team fight that maybe you weren't expecting. I think one that we saw in that particular game as well was the fight between GG, where they thought they had the jump on a team. Then all of a sudden, a Caustic ult goes down. They might have thought, wait, who's playing Caustic? Nobody's been playing Caustic up to this point, and it changes the dynamic of a fight almost immediately.
Yeah, it really, you know, those players who historically would track compositions, track skins that people are playing and everything like that, their job just got 10 times harder, if not impossible at this point of, oh, wait, which Caustic team played this skin? Yeah, you're never going to be able to track that in any reality. But going into match 6, I think we're going to see a lot more Rampart. We saw a couple popping up there, but if you think about what you want to achieve in E-District and what Newcastle offers and now has no longer offering because he's banned, maybe Rampart can cover that for you.
We'll have to see who is going to be. I think we might see the rise of Caustic again in this match number 6. I think E-District sort of lends itself to Caustic as being not only a controller legend that can hit console, but also someone who can, you know, hold ground, hold buildings, hold space. And I think that we started to see it creep in a little bit in that last game, and I think that maybe where teams start to lean. But our legend bands from week number 1 here at EMEA, just to run you through: Ash, she was first to go, then it was Wraith, then it was Catalyst, then it was Alta, and now we find ourselves with the final game of the day with those legends on your screen still available that do not find themselves with a red X next to them.
Well remembered, by the way, I will say, just being able to keep on track with that.
Paying attention.
Without a graphical asset of saying what number it was.
Thank you.
But who's going to get banned in match 6? No one, because this is the last game of this series and a chance for teams to make a name for themselves in week 1 of Pro League. Will it be Infinite? Will it be Ronin? Will we see reigning world champs Na'Vi find the points to take the number 1 spot? There's only one way to find out as we head into E-District once more. And my question, who are we going to see as the most picked legend here? Are we going to see more Rampart? Will it be more Ballistic? Only one way to find out.
Well, also, you can see the Challenger Circuit is about to start as well, so head over and check that out if you want to compete in the ALGS, if you want a chance at getting yourself into the Pro League, getting yourself to one of these huge events that we do have going throughout the year, and maybe being the next name that we're talking about on broadcast. But full focus now onto our final game of the day. EMEA has not disappointed. It has been an amazing day of action so far. Let's see who closes out.
Novi times for some of the teams that are in the kind of bottom 10 as well, that were in the kind of spotlight a little bit. I mean, I hate to say it again, but FaZe Clan down in the lower end of this lobby. One big game though, and they can give themselves quite a lot of points to try and, you know, at least give themselves a shot of staying within the conversation as we move further. It is only week 1, so of course, no reason to panic just yet, with the aim being regional finals eventually, and then qualifying for the mid-season playoffs as the eventual goal as well. And the fun thing is, Mark, we're going to get to see all these teams in action at the ALGS Open prior to those regional finals and prior to the playoffs happening. So we'll get a sneak peek of what they look like on LAN as well.
160 teams. That's a lot of teams.
Gives me a mild amount of anxiety, but also a lot of excitement at the same time.
Thank God I'm not in charge of sorting out the travel. Anyway, let's focus on where we're going in this final game. We're going towards the north. Good for Na'Vi, good for cybercats, and Na'Vi, who are a team within striking distance, of course, of taking home first place, our current world champions, might be able to close out here, Dan. It's a great zone for them.
Just trying to count out the amount of legends as well that are popping up. A few more Bangalore's going to be there. Mad Maggie I'm seeing pop up. Valkyries. I mean, there's not a lot of Caustic. Actually, all the Caustics that were in selection, only one of them has survived. I think that's because a lot of the teams who were selecting Caustic previously maybe struggled and felt like they needed something else to chase points here in match 6. So you start to get more aggressive compositions, which is another factor of the match 6 effect. Not only have you got 5 legends banned, but you've also got people that are just searching for points here. So start to change things up and go for legends that might allow for that aggression. The likes of Ballistic, for example, which is why we're seeing more of him.
Got Lifeline. Got some more Ramparts for sure, but Mad Maggie, I think, is the notable addition.
Yeah.
Ronin still running the Pathfinder, by the way. Love that from you guys. Certainly more playable now with the Skirmisher perks, or I should say the Skirmisher changes that we saw from the latest patch. As we jump on board with GoNext, 7th place overall, 30 points on the board. And with how close it is, one big game here can completely change how things look. And this is a very good start for them.
Yeah, able to take down one easily from the side of Cat, and did they catch him unawares? It looks like they may have done. Cat will survive, they're not going to be around, but it looks like just one solo player was caught off guard, and now GoNext will go back to probably looting, booting, and making sure they have everything equipped to get into that late game. They are a team that is still within a shot, by the way, of getting to the top end of this leaderboard. 31 points at the moment. You know, a win and some kills, and they could put themselves a 20-point game, which does send them up to the same kind of numbers as Infinite. Speaking of Infinite, they're in an early fight here. This could be an opening for a lot of other teams if they go down.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a scuffle, maybe just an exchange to see if one team can control both buildings. It looks like everybody's decided that, you know what, let's just relax a little bit. But the problem for Infinite here, as the care package comes down and makes it even more tempting to leave this building, is the fact that the team on the other side of things, cybercats, will come back to that in a second, because Navi are in their first fight and they look like they're winning it against BPR.
Yeah, BPR now down to just one, and it's going to be just trying to be an escape artist for BPR. Not going to try and take that fight, but a couple of KP for Navi for their chase for first place here. And I don't think they're going to hunt down the last remaining player too much. It's going to be a quick craft, so BPR may just get back on their feet. They're just going to have to go a little bit further out of the zone to get into somewhere to call safe. And Navi will be center zone, by the way.
You have not seen the last of Optimus Fish.
Cyborg. Still going to say, is to point out Cyborg was what you went for.
Mechanical gills.
Do you think Transformers are cyborgs?
Dan told me to stop speaking. Infinite inside of this building. What I was going to say about the composition, right? Across from cybercats. If I'm not mistaken, cybercats have Mad Maggie and Fuse in their composition. So it's going to be so difficult to avoid consistent riot drills, knuckle clusters that are coming in. If cybercats get an opportunity to strike and find some damage, we know that they're the type of team who'll take it. So it's going to be a very tough hold for them.
Yeah, this one fight on our screens could impact the entirety of this series, which is quite scary. And going up against cybercats as well, a team who is not afraid to be aggressive when the moment does present it to themselves. So see whether that fight eventually breaks out, as Gaimin Gladiators 8th position at the moment on 29 points. They would need a big game, maybe a record-breaking game, to be able to win this lobby, but they can certainly put themselves further up in the leaderboard. They haven't been bad today, but not been, you know, as exciting as maybe they have been previously.
GG. A little bit of drone work at the moment. Looking to see if they can scope a couple of teams out on their rotation. For now, it looks like Hats are down to just 2, and Tax is having to pop some shield cell just to see if he can survive, but they've lost Adam. And this is looking like a rescue situation for them.
Briefly saw the legend pick rates at the top there. Something that we were discussing earlier. You can see the amount of picks for the compositions. Some teams exactly the same as others, but variety, as we've mentioned time and time again, just how different some of these comps can be just off of preference of legends, and also how deep that legend pool is for you. As now we can see this squad back on their feet. Nemesis going to be walking up onto GoNext though, and I think they heard them, so that's why they're just going to back off here and try and reposition.
Nemesis down in 17th with 17 points, which makes my logical brain, a small part of it that's left, very happy.
The small part of your brain is logical, or?
Yeah, that's the small part of my brain that's logical that's left. We're going to have to retreat for now as we see GoNext now firing some shots in down onto the low ground. Plexus is going to find one though for Legion Gaming, who have been kind of an interesting watch today, because you look at 17 points and 16th overall, it doesn't seem great, but they've taken some really good fights.
Yeah, I think when you look at scrims and you watch scrims happen and people take fights, and they need to learn whether the fights they're taking are stupid or not. You know, would they happen in a competitive environment? Did we find success? Did we find success just because we did something that was a little bit idiotic, or was it a case of a good push? And I think you find out when you go into actual competitive games, when you're scared to make that same push, you learn that, okay, what we did in scrims maybe wasn't the smart play, and perhaps we ruined a game for someone else.
And GG now rotating themselves in and around BPR, finding the bottom floor of this building. EMP is going to go in. I think they're going to try and play off of this, taking the second floor here. Lufka, who isn't on the Newcastle anymore because of that Legend has been banned. He's going to find Nyx in front of him, though. P20s will do, and even on the fuse, he's doing some work.
Yeah, doing a lot of work. Gaming Gladiators now have the upper hand in this fight and looking to try and clean things up. That's 1, that's 2. Looking to try and make it 3. Yes, jobs are good, and BPR will finally be eliminated despite their desperate attempt to get back up to a full squad. Gaming Gladiators push themselves up into 7th position now. As I said, still doable, albeit unlikely to be winning this lobby, but we might see them within the top 3 if they have a good game here.
Yeah, really, really good reset there, and you saw again the effect of Ballistic having that charged up Rampage in the sling can just output so much damage. As we take a look at our map overhead, we take a look at the zone, and it is pulling more towards the north. And if you're looking at the position of Na'Vi, are they playing for a pullback, or are they now in a position where they're thinking, hey, we're going to have to make a little bit of a traverse here, maybe one that we didn't want to make?
Yeah, it's a difficult rotate for a lot of these teams, actually, because even though it's quite central, which would typically be good on the outside because you're not forcing your way through a lot of teams from either south or north, everyone's kind of congested in the middle. So it doesn't matter where you kind of arrive from, there's going to be someone to hold you out. So not going to be an enjoyable experience, but you can see Na'Vi on that southern side. They'll be the main team to kind of look out for KP when teams are arriving from the south. On the north, it's Alliance who lock down that northern tip as well. So those two teams arguably could be some favorites already in this game to might take the win here.
FaZe trying to hold out GoNext at the moment. FaZe who have had a very, very quiet day, a disappointing day by their own standards. I'm sure they were expecting a lot more from this first week of ALGS Pro League. Tyler sending out the bang ult, trying to force GoNext away from that position as ExoClan are fighting, and this is what they like to do. 2 already dead for them, and it's going to be Na'Vi and Xako who might be last alive here, but Sweaty can't quite connect yet. Is he going to finally connect? Xako? Get him. Where'd he go? Gets the power off. Oh, no. 20.
No,
don't lose this.
oh,
20.
no.
Yeah, just stay alive. Xako might have given himself a chance here. Yeah, send out the drone. The P20's not quite still alive. You know, can't get the job done.
The P2020 sometimes giveth, but sometimes taketh away, right? It can be like that sometimes. But the bullet spread can just hurt you when it isn't correct, but it will keep Na'Vi alive. So they have a chance to maybe get back up. Annex are taking this fight in the sewers at the moment. They've done a lot of damage to GoNext, and they want to be able to swing on this, and they will as another force.
Last player alive is going to be right here as well, and that's going to be GoNext eliminated. Their day is done here in week number 1 of the Pro League. ALGS Esports will take them down and be able to reset, but FaZe not looking good again. Synetic inside of zone, looking like the last alive for his team, and FaZe fall again. 17 squads remain as FaZe exit the lobby in 18th. As UAIM will get back up to a 3. They've just respawned Artico and Sanya.
A couple of days ago, I watched FaZe top scrims. It was an 8-match scrim, but still, they were putting so much points on the board, but just not been able to find the same amount of success here in AB as they did in that scrim earlier. So they're going to need a big week 2 to try and catch up for lost points here in the first week. But enough about FaZe and more about the teams that are still alive. You can see Zidane just bled out, so Na'Vi down to just 1 officially. And EXO, of course, were picking up that KP. Legion Gaming still alive, 16th position, but they're going to have to move from the southeast. Atlas are going to be nearby, and Annex just north of them as well. So they send out the drone just to get a little bit of information before they move.
Infinite center zone, by the way, at the moment.
Yeah.
What a week it would be for them. See the bin reset between Infinite, speaking of, and cybercats, still in their corresponding buildings that we saw right at the start. Bucci going to be very happy that he's going to find himself some goodies from that gold bin that spawned in front of them. It's always a good feeling when you're holding down a building for a long time and then all of a sudden the bins reset and one of them turns gold. You're like, yeah, good news, everyone. You got some extra goodies.
Yeah, just a few of the quality of life updates that came through from the respawn team in the EA to give us more exciting things in the end game, so that if you hadn't been able to loot up, if you had been starved of loot throughout the game, you just get that extra second opportunity to give yourself more of a chance, so you're not just flailing like a fish out of water.
Cyborg.
Optimus Fish 20. Now Legion Gaming, they will send out the drone, send out the EMP, and now they send out the push.
They send out Na'Vi as well by the looks of things. 16 squads remaining. Na'Vi's day is finished. And we'll have to watch on from the observer screen for the rest of this game as Legion Gaming have to force their way towards zone. ExoClan, it turned their back at just the wrong time, and Chaotic will go down first.
Goes down, and Legion Gaming with a chance to really take out K-Swinny. The P2020 is maybe going to come back to haunt him, But from the other side now, Arctic tries to hold off 4K20 to escape, I think, but I don't know whether it's going to be successful. There is a few little nooks and crannies you can hide and run around here. Sadly, doesn't happen.
Yeah, Swinny does not find it so easy to get away this time. And that will be the end of ExoClan's day as well. Alliance still alive in this lobby as well. GG in a really good spot as well, just down on the western side of this zone. Atlas still have a solo alive as well that they have to be a little bit concerned about. GG trying to overextend here to get these kills, but Annex have lost one. Life in it is down.
Down but not out yet. Backs against the wall. Annex can still fight this one, and actually there might be an opportunity to get a res. Yep, res does come through, so Annex are not down. Nemesis eliminated in 15th position, now 14 teams. G-Dolphins taking a lot of damage. It's GG, who are still on the charge, by the way. Atlas get eliminated in 14th spot. And GG are slowly but surely climbing up this leaderboard.
Yeah, a lot of KP already been picked up by GG. If they can find themselves somewhere near this end game, then they might have something to say on these overall leaderboards. I'm going to have to go through another team as we jump on board with Cat here. Couple of kill points going their way. Ronin have been eliminated, so they will be able to pick up those kills and reset very, very comfortably here. Kraber in the hands of Taxi as well, so let's see if he can find a few big shots to force their way in towards zone. They're just on the outside of it for now, but one shot with this Kraber creates an opportunity.
I mean, Ronin eliminated. What an opening that is for Infinite here, who could be that #1 finishing team. Na'Vi also were eliminated earlier as well, but does mean other teams can catch up and maybe pip them who've been eliminated earlier. I mean, what a day it could be for Infinite, by the way. A team who came through from the PSQ and are now looking to try and take first place here in week 1 of Pro League.
Oh, GG, they've been really good so far, but it's trades early on in this fight. They have to force their way towards zone. The Eva 8 is spraying, it's not quite connecting, but luckily enough, Lufkur is there to finish things off. Blast has been finished though, so they're not going to be able to get the ballistic back to his feet. It's going to have to be a hard reset, if anything. Or maybe it's just going to be the end of the game here for GG. Alex Esports trying to hold them out.
I mean, what a turnaround there, just to actually deal some damage and stop Annex from pushing out, but it won't matter. GG do get eliminated, as do Stay Healthy. We're down to 9 squads. A lot of teams falling here just because there's no room to play, all these chokeholds, and no legends to help you. You don't have the Altar, you don't have the Newcastle, and it means sometimes you just have to take these fights pretty raw and use gun skill instead. Zero Tenacity also go down, 8 teams left.
Cybercats overextended to finish off some of these pieces from that building that they were in for quite some time. Infinite still alive, up to purples inside of the building they were in from the very start of this game as well. Alliance, who are in 5th place overall as well, as Danish will be eliminated, are probably thinking this is their chance to win a game. They have more space than they've ever had in a previous game. They've got clear rotations, and now they can just take fights.
With those eliminations, Infinite have officially taken first place now, by the way. Only really being chased down by Forbidden, but I don't think they're going to be able to catch them. But who is going to be winning this game? 5 squads remain. Alliance, can they put themselves right up to the top? They are also chasing that 52-point mark that is currently set by Infinite. Is still doable. Alliance still could win this entire day if they pick off some KP and win this game.
And the difference in the pace of this game because of the legend bans is something for everyone at home to note. No Newcastle, no Altar, no Gibraltar's in the lineup, even though he is available. It means that everybody is having to play, like you say, with raw gun skill and simple positioning around the geometry of the map. It's been a fascinating change in pace in this final game.
And the amount of assault characters we're seeing as well, just to be able to get that damage, get the shield off, and then get that info so you can push that fight, you can be aggressive. Cybercats still alive in this building. They've been here right from the start, but they might be finally pushed out.
Love this play from Jans. Gets damage, gets more damage with that R99 spray, and then gets out, stays alive, doesn't overcommit, and gives Cybercats the chance to fully reset here. But Cybercats, for now, are holding. They're all stacked up in one corner. Annex Esports, though, they're going to get that first stock onto Taskmaster. The Mother Load goes in as well, and they're looking to force the fight now.
Will force the fight, do get the first knock, but how do they approach it? They're also well aware there's another team. Infinite finally comes out of the other building. The #1 team, the team that's leading, the team that came from PSQ throughout qualifiers, leading Pro League week #1 and looking to try and make a statement here.
Damage is done in front of them as well. Cybercats somehow still alive here. Somehow staying on their feet. All 3 players still alive. Certainly not as healthy as they would want to be, but healthy enough to come back and try and force this fight. Archie's going to have to be careful here. That zone is singeing away as he's going to have to pop a syringe to deal with those burns. Annex have lost some players. It's only ascertaining his teammate lifing down on that low ground. And where are Alliance? Look at the ground that Alliance have, by the way. They control everything.
Alex will be eliminated. By the way, cybercats holding this with this composition, may I add. No kind of core stick to work with. Of course, Catalyst banned. No one to really lock down the building. 2 assault characters, and they're still going. Taskmaster doing what Taskmaster does best as they pick up more KP. Forbidden eliminated. We have 3 teams left.
3 squads now remaining. Alliance just overlooking all of this. They control the most ground here, but there is so much space to play for everybody. The difference in pace in this game from game 4 and game 5 is so notable. We have so much space with 3 squads alive, nobody on top of each other. And I think this is the most time you're going to have in an Apex Legends Global Series lobby to reset as a top 3 situation.
I think too many points now for Alliance to catch up Infinite, which probably has the writing on the wall for who's going to be winning Pro League Week 1, but a chance for Alliance to send themselves further up these leaderboards and get more points in the overalls. Infinite now have this building, have grenades, have utility, and it's kind of going to be cybercats down low and Alliance and Infinite watching from above.
Cybercats have that Maggie as well, and if they get a wrecking ball in this final zone, it could be GG for everybody else in the lobby. We'll have to see if that's going to have an influence. Sheila as well, also in the arsenal here. On the other side of things for Alliance, it's Fuse and that Motherlode they're going to be looking for. Maybe it's just going to be raw gun skill from Effect. Again, great shots from the P2020s, but nobody going down.
Yeah, notice how he doesn't drop there as well. That would have just been giving up the game. Alliance think they can win this one. You deal the damage, you wait, and you see where Infinite come out, and you force the 2 teams together.
Down on the low ground, it's going to be Infinite who just want the KP. They want to take home second, and that's what they do indeed. And it might have been enough to secure first place overall, but our game 6 belongs to Alliance. The champions from last year end week 1 of the Pro League in exactly the way they would have wanted.
Alliance send themselves into the top 3 of the overalls, just a few points shy of Ronin in the end, and they do not catch Infinite. It will be Infinite who are the winners here of Pro League Week 1 in EMEA, the team that came from PSQ. I mean, a similar story to what we saw from Na'Vi last year, right? From challengers, from qualifiers, all the way to the championship. Could Infinite be the next team that we're talking about at the end of this season?
Going to be a team to keep an eye on for sure. What a phenomenal start it was for them in week number 1. We'll take a look at the match results. It was Alliance who came out on top with 17 points. The 5 KP that they got alongside the 12 for that first place finish. Fantastic. Infinite was 16 just behind them, and certainly enough to solidify their place at the top of the leaderboards. Elsewhere, where we look at maybe quiet days for a couple of teams, you look at the likes of ExoClan, you're looking at FaZe. I think Na'Vi will be a bit disappointed with how their day ended after the first 5 games looking so good, but overall you're looking at the top of the leaderboards. Alliance with that win. I think today has been a tough day for Alliance with some of the zones they've had to play, but coming out with a win in that final game certainly just reminds us how good this squad is.
Yeah, I think Alliance showed great resilience throughout the games where, as you mentioned, was a difficult rotation for them, but they once again display their dominance and why they are arguably one of the best, if not the best team in EMEA, regardless of previous results. When you look across their consistency throughout the entirety of Year 4, they are definitely up there with the likes of Na'Vi as one of the best teams in the world.
Well, let's bring Rain back in as we head towards our series results, just to confirm who is going to be winning things. Rain, what a crazy end. What a different feeling E-District game that was without the likes of Newcastle in those compositions.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see, guys, and great call as well. I mean, pointing out all these differences and what teams have to adapt to. Specifically, I thought it was interesting how sometimes you do have these things that we break down around the lineups, but it's sometimes a lineup that doesn't need any breaking down. It's just about gun skill. It's just about putting yourself in a position to actually win that fight through just the angles that you're taking. Apex has so many different dynamics, but we got to see almost like a raw version of Apex there, which is really great, and I love the tempo shift. Of course, the biggest thing to note is that the tempo was dominated by a team who wasn't even sure they were going to be in Pro League. Infinite somehow come out of PSQ alongside Ronin and alongside Cat, and they take the top 2 spots, Sir Dan Gaskin, ahead of Alliance. What a performance from our PSQ teams.
Thank you for using my official title. I appreciate it, but
He's knighted.
if anyone can do it, it's Rain Day. That's all I'm saying. I will take it, the knighthood. Thank you very much. But yeah, well, what a performance from Infinite. I know I've mentioned it a few times already, but to do it from PSQ to now be leading Pro League in week 1, I think is an eye-opener for how different this season could be. And maybe, you know, those ranked grinders, those teams that are good with plenty of legends are finding success. It doesn't matter what composition that you're using. I am very intrigued. I'm going to go back and I'm going to check what composition they were using throughout game 1 through to game 6, so to look at, you know, how much changes did they have? Did they try and play something a little bit under the radar? They are a team who have really kind of opened the eyes for everyone else in the lobby.
Yeah, and how fast are you navigating this? I think a lot of teams with experience, you look at Alliance, right? They've somehow found a way. They didn't win today. They won that last game. They somehow found a way to get the results that they needed, even though it wasn't necessarily a day where they were the dominant force. They show their experience is able to make adjustments on the fly. Some of these PSQ teams, though, we don't know how deep that roster goes for them to be able to play. So Ronin Infinite obviously showcasing that even if you have the backing of a team like Alliance or Natus Vincere, there's still ways for you to be effective as a player here heading into this Pro League where things are different. And that's kind of the season theme for year 5. We got new maps. We've got new adjustments happening. We've also got new opportunities for you to showcase your skill. So a team like Infinite being able to get the job done, it's a great sign of what is to come, where maybe year 5 is going to see a new champion again, which would be very, very exciting, as we saw in year 4 as well. Mark, I kind of want to get your final thoughts too on this. Like you mentioned how different it was. What to you was the most striking element of the difference that happened in that final game? Was it just the bans? Was it the state of the game? People do sometimes throw a little bit at the wall, right? At that final game just to see what's happening. But you know, what happened about those bans that made it flow that way?
I think it was kind of exemplified the difference of not having Newcastle in that final game because of the zone as well. It was probably one of the zones on E-District where there's not a huge amount of buildings to play. It was more open ground. And when you don't have a Newcastle, all of a sudden you're left in the open, especially if you're arriving a little bit later to that zone. You don't have one of those priority positions. There's not a lot of artificial cover for you to have to play. So teams are playing for KP on edge of zone, knowing that they can't really do anything towards the end game. So I think I mentioned in the cast, it's like the most time probably that we're going to see a top 3 with everybody having space to reset, to take angles away from each other. It's something that we don't normally see. And it's only because of the legend bans that we're seeing that. It's a really good example of what to expect from this year. And I think it's going to be one of the most exciting years we've ever had, just because every game is going to feel different, regardless of legend bans, map bans, whatever it might be, different maps coming in. It's going to be so fun to watch these teams go at it.
I mean, a great response too. And I think it's interesting. We don't necessarily feel settled. I think that's kind of the thing watching this. Every game felt different in its own way. And that allowed some teams to stand out like Infinite. It also allowed some traditional high performers to stand out as well, as we introduce you to our Sony in-zone kill leader race. As of course, that is one of the things we like to highlight, those top performers throughout the day. Yes, it was about Infinite, but somebody who really always has stood out over this last year is Light. He takes the lead with 16 kills.
We're being trolled here on the right hand side, by the way. We're being trolled.
The deadliest weapon.
Yeah, that's quite simply not true. That's not true.
Well, finding some ways it is not true. I mean, again though, you know, guys, you know, Light having the ability to come out of a position where Gaimin Gladiators, they perform well, but maybe had a lot of hopes around them. This isn't the start necessarily to Pro League that would make them feel like we're back on track exactly. Obviously, wanting to take the win would be important, but the fact that Light is still performing well, and you can see the Lufka and Blast synergy is still there. Certainly, Mark, still a team that is a part of the conversation in terms of the best in EMEA, despite it going Infinite's way today.
Yeah, I mean, still a good finish from them, a really solid week 1. I think every team that comes into week 1 of Pro League just wants like a solid finish, something they can build upon. You look at, you know, a team like FaZe coming into this week after, like Dan said, looked really good in some of the scrim games, and then week 1 of the Pro League, you're like, oh no, like we need to go away and rethink exactly maybe how we're approaching these games, because they've played out a little bit different. So as long as you're like solid enough, like top 6, top 7, I think you're going to be happy knowing that the work you've done looks like it's being successful. There's probably some things to work on, of course, but you know, this is going to be a learning process for everyone. I think this is the first week of real lobbies. This is the first week where everyone is playing for the most points they can get out of a lobby, not just some cool scrim clips. You know, it's all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a learning process for everyone. I think we're going to just constantly see it evolve week by week.
Dan, do you feel that there's some element of like kind of recapping today where you build a lot of momentum as a team? You know, you look at Alliance, you look at Gaimin Gladiators, but then Apex kind of changes underneath you. You also have a new year happening, and you have these new kind of pace things that are coming up. The legend bands, obviously. Is it hard, you feel, for a team with experience who's had a little momentum going into this year to keep that up, or do you think, you know, hey, the fact that they've got the experience is actually the gift for them? They're going to be able to handle all these changes.
Yeah, I think experience is going to play a big part because it's about adapting at the end of the day. Yes, some of the more experienced teams might not have found success today, but they will be the quickest to learn and change things going into week 2. And I think what we've learned from today and about this meta is it's about adapting on the fly throughout every single match. And whether you have the plan of, all right, we're going to go under the radar a little bit and go for a composition that allows us to stay similar so that we're not having to change, or we're so confident in one of our players changing legends every single game that we are happy to fit the meta, for example. So for a team like, you know, Alliance, for example, were they happy that they fit the meta? Were they happy that they followed those bans, or would they prefer to do something a little bit more consistent? That's going to be the discussion that will happen for a lot of these teams that are more experienced. Some of the newer teams are probably just going to go with the punches and see what happens elsewhere, and maybe they'll adapt and maybe they'll follow. And I was looking at the legend selection for Infinite. Interestingly, Kiz stayed on Crypto games 1 to 3 and then Rampart 4 to 6. But Vushi actually changed legend every single game and was often the meta legend. I think there's a lot of credit to be shown to Vushi for being able to do that and being able to put up so much success being a different legend, and how important players like that are on your squad.
Yeah, it does. It does kind of, you know, the player that we're going to be previewing in a little bit here in North America, reps, you know, the conversation of, you know, this is what I love. This is kind of my thing. I've always been flexible. I've always had the ability to outperform by my kind of experience across the board. And that is truly a different play style than someone who just hyper is successful on maybe a more aggressive meta or a more defensive meta. And I think that's starting to now be the players that we can highlight looking into year 5. Also a call for people who are not in that position to say, hey, flexibility is the name of the game now that we've seen this in action after day 1 in EMEA. We also saw a new name on top of the leaderboard today, and it was Infinite. And we have a chance to talk with them as well. Listen, I know that this is, you know, we're usually talking to Alliance. We're talking to Gaimin Gladiators. The fact is we got EQ up here with us from Infinite. Congratulations on the win, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, like the victory, you know. So when you're winning, like it's sound good every time. You are very happy. I can sleep well, so it's good. I didn't sleep for 3 days, so much stress, so much work, and we won.
Yeah,
the work paid.
Well, you've made a moment happen here, which is amazing. Coming from the PSQ and now winning Pro League, obviously it's stressful. You having this opportunity in front of you, though, is there a little bit about you that maybe people don't know that you're on this stage? You can help just explain a little bit of your journey getting here.
Like the things, like I have a lot of experience. Like I have 3-year experience already. And the first time when I came to the Pro League, we won 1 day already, and that was with Voshi, with VCGO. And so this time we have this experience to win this day. So this is good. And like we make the PSQ and we have 2 problems. Like me and Voshi, we working, like we have a job outside of Apex. So we're working 35 hours per week. And we put so much discipline. We work harder and we said, let's play together, guys. And we're gonna make it. And Kizaron is a big harder IGL. So I think the win is because Kizaron IGL. Thanks, Kizaron. My God.
Well, firstly, congratulations on the win. You say like you haven't slept for 3 days. It's been very stressful. How different is this season for you as a team with the legend bans? Like how much more thinking has to go into your game plans ahead of a week like this?
The thing is, like me, I'm lucky to play only 2 characters. I'm playing Watson and Newcastle, so it's fine because I have this all experience in this character. But for example, Voshi, like the Fragger people now, they have to learn so much character, and when you're learning so much character, you have to use all the abilities, and sometimes like you forgot you have these abilities, like for example a Bang Gult when you're pushing a building because you're playing Bang, and that's much harder, you know. But the good things is like it's like League of Legends, like it's way harder. So I don't know, like when you're winning, you are so much happy because you have to play multiples, like teams, like multiple squad, multiple character, and it's very, very funny like now. So you have to learn better, and I think like it's just people like not stress and be focused on your character. They're gonna not make a misplay, and that's a better team winning when they're making that. Like they have the focused players.
You know, it's interesting, you know, kind of wrapping up. I want to give you a little bit more of a window to talk about anyone that you want to kind of highlight or just share this moment with. I feel like you're still getting to it. Like you just won day one of Pro League in year 5. You know, this is a huge deal, you know, against people who have lifted trophies for $500,000 to $1 million on the line. So I just want to give you this moment as much as you can. So is there anyone you want to shout out, talk to, or describe, you know, about this for your final thoughts, because it's great to have you, and we're so excited for what you guys are going to do in the future.
Thank you. I didn't understand. Like, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, like what is this? Is there anyone you want to shout out? Is there anything else that you want to expand on? Because I think this is a big moment for you guys. I know you're kind of in the zone. You haven't slept maybe, and you're just kind of in the stress. But like the fact that you guys you're the champion of day one, I feel like that's pretty momentous. So I just want to give you the time if you want to shout out anybody supporting, and just give you more time.
All right. So thanks my family, thanks my friends. And also just remember, guys, we have no org. We are looking for org, okay? We're going to make this LAN. We're going to win this LAN, maybe. We're going to put so much ads, so much words, so much work. And we have the talents. We can. Like, we have the firepower. We just have to work and to be friends and to put so much love in the game. And when you're putting love in the game with your teammates, you're going to win. This is the key.
Love in the game. I love that, EQ. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and congrats again to Infinite on taking the win in day one of EMEA in our year 5 Pro League. Congrats, man, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
All right, man. What a great interview. I mean, I love the element of just kind of being in the moment of it, and
I can leave the
He's still here. I think we heard him a little bit. He's heading out. Thanks to our producers for wrapping that up. But Mark, just really, you know, I love the sentiments there. You put the time in with a team that you love, and good things happen.
Yeah, that's what I tell Dan every time he moans at me when we play ranked. He should just show me some more love. But you know, it's true, right? It's the hard work, it's the passion, it's everything you want to hear from someone who's going essentially from 3 years of experience playing, competing, and now having his moment, and he just wants to go on and do more. I love, like, we're gonna go to LAN, we're gonna win LAN. I love that.
Yeah. Guys, let's kind of start to wrap it up, because of course, what a great day in EMEA. Dan, this set the tone for year 5, right? And obviously you see Infinite coming in from PSQ. I feel like that again is just only a symbol of year 5 is going to give us the unexpected. It's going to give us something different and exciting as well.
Yeah, and it leads to the question of, how is America's going to look when we get to that later as well? We had a few heavy hitters in EMEA, but maybe the unexpected victor comes through. Is that going to be the same thing when we get to America's? Are the usual suspects going to top the leaderboards, or will someone who maybe comes out of nowhere and puts their name on the map as well? I think one thing we learned today is that anything can happen. The legend bans are very exciting. We're seeing so many different ways of trying to play the game, and this is going to be a fun season for sure.
Well, speaking of the Americas, as we let Dan and Mark go, it's time to look forward, just like EQ was doing with Infinite. He's going all the way to the ALGS Open. I'm just going into like the next hour, because Americas are coming up. That's right. Your favorite teams all across the board will be playing to finish off our doubleheader of the day. What an exciting time. And we'll be starting that off in just about an hour or two. Also, the Open, like I mentioned, that's May 1st to 4th. Grab your tickets now. Throw up your phone, use that camera, and go instantly to book your spot at what will be as it always is, the best Apex Legends event ever. We somehow find a way to keep outdoing ourselves. Big shout out as well to Play Apex Esports. Make sure to follow us on all things there for Apex updates and when we go live. My name has been Rainday. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes, Esports Engine, of course, my talent with us, Dan and Mark. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Americas is on. Congrats on a great year 5, and we can't wait to see you then.